Hello and welcome to the 2.3C Poland AAR. I am Ichthy. I played Poland this game. I had a great time. And I'm here with Char, and we're gonna be going
Hello.
over. Yep, we're gonna be going over a lot of stuff here. Um, Now I want to start by going into just the start of the board and a lot of the position here. Um, in 2.5. You have the Fleet and Wilno in the Baltic Sea, which does let you get a pretty good offensive early on Sweden. That Riga being adjacent to Abo gives you a lot of options with forcing that. I mean, this just got changed here in 2.5, so this is no longer a thing, but at least in this version, it still was. And that means that generally in a Baltic Sea conflict, I think long term, assuming Poland is not getting pressured elsewhere, Poland generally wins. Um, so that is something to consider immediately. Austria and the Polish border is relatively easy to maintain. Neither power has an immediately great attack on the other. Um, And if we look down at the Ottomans, this is a point of contention, which I will get into soon, because the Polish Ottoman border is not a very good one and generally feels like it invites conflict. Um, as for Russia, it can cause conflict. The issue is it is a very stalematy conflict for both powers if Poland and Russia fight. It takes a while for the powers to break through the other's lines. There isn't that much they can do to support because they're both. This area is essentially a funnel between Black Sea and the Baltic. It kind of funnels the whole conflict in to just a few provinces, and it can be very slow. So one of my initial goals in this game was to avoid a long, drawn-out war with Russia. By either allying them or stabbing them or just letting them die and anything like that. Looking down at the two colonies, we have Africa. This is a very challenging position because, well, mainly Portugal. Portugal is a problem. Also, France too. But as you'll see, I deal with France relatively early on here. But Portugal can definitely be a problem with their fleet in Cabo Verde, which can attack you relatively easily, and the army on Arguin, once that goes through France, it's hitting you next. Especially, one of the big things I wanted to do here, especially, was prevent an EP from happening, because with dual pressure from Cormanton and from Cabo Verde on Arguin, I would not have survived. So one of my early goals was to not allow an EP to form. Luckily, it didn't. Um, but that was one of my initial starting goals there. As for the fleet in New Courland, this is relatively nice comparatively to Jacob Fort because Barbados and Caracas are both relatively easy for you to take as Poland. The issue being Caracas is kind of hard to hold, and we'll see that here. But overall, I think their position as Poland is relatively good in this state. You've got a pretty stable border with Austria until you want to disturb it. You've got, good attacks on Sweden. You've got a good enemy that you can share with Austria in the Ottomans, and the Russians are relatively easy to manage. They cannot get too out of control too fast if you're dealing with them, and that makes at least your Europe position very nice. Um, Now, one of the next things I want to get into is kind of how I play the game. For Imperial diplomacy, in every game I play, right at the start, I paste a message into my void. Um, Now, the exact the specifics of this message I will have down in the description of this video, and so you can read through it. But specifically, in order, there are 10 rules that I follow whenever I'm playing diplomacy. First, be the first to talk to people after phase changes. Talk to people frequently, even if you have nothing to immediately gain. Make sure alliances are forced to take action. Do not act in service to another player above yourself. Do not become a breakaway leader unless you are confident you can win or solo. Have contingency plans against all neighbors at all times. Do not willingly stagnate. Never take sole credit for an idea or plan. And be careful when lying. Doing so too much can ruin your credibility, and you should be prepared to fight anyone you do lie to. And then finally, 10th, learn one thing from every game. I have been following this set of rules, I believe, all the way since like 1.3 is when I initially started using them, and they have evolved over time as I've continued playing, but that set of rules is what I play most of my games by. And generally, they have not failed me. Like, very broadly, the games I've played while running these have been 1.5C, where I played as the Ottomans and duoed. B2E, where I was the strongest player that was not included in the impunity of that game. 2.2J, or 2.1J, where I was Aymara, and I managed to end above the SEC, but still lost to a duo, who had a lot more growth. And now this game. So, as far as I know, if you stick to these rules, they should work out for you. Now, let's get on to some of the early moves and the openings. Looking here at our spring 1642 moves, we have, starting with Europe. So, my initial plan here was, as you can see, I was going for Lübeck and Berlin, and I was also trying to make a play on both Ochakiv and Yassi, and then, just going for Riga up here in the north. Myself and Russia had been coordinating against the Ottomans, and learned that they were doing Constantinople to Ochakiv and Smyrna to Khan, and so we decided to bounce them out of Ocha, and that way Russia could support Kiev into Ochakiv, which would be a really great Ottoman opening. This was especially concerning for the Ottomans because they were having some issues with Spain early on. Spain did open, if I remember correctly, somewhat aggressive in the Mediterranean against them. And so, generally, it was very good. The Ottomans did not do very well in this game early on, and it was very good that we contained them early, myself and Russia. The Ottoman player initially was Artima, I believe, but they subbed out very early in this game. Like, I believe the start of 1643 is when they subbed out. So, the Ottoman player was very iffy here early on. Otherwise, in some of my other theaters, Sweden, Netherlands, and Austria, and as well as myself, were all in this little alliance that Sweden had set up called the Central European Alliance. Now, Sweden had spoken to me about two main things. One was they wanted to try to run this like Central European Alliance thing and run it for as long as they can. The second was they wanted to DMZ the Baltic. Now, this as well as just me looking into what they had done before as a player, signals to me that Sweden is very new. These longer term like alliance things, these multiplayer alliances with multiple people, especially all of them being close neighbors like this, these don't work out. And as you'll see by the end of the game, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Austria all do not do well. I believe at the end of the game there are 12 centers between all three of those powers combined, 11 of which are held by the Dutch. Um, and so yeah, this did not work out. These alliances generally end in just stabs if you commit to them. These larger alliances. Now, I was the one doing the stabbing, which benefited me very well, but as just advice for players, generally don't do these. These they can work, but they remind me of, say, like doing a Western triple in standard. They're not generally the best idea. They can work out, but they usually don't. And so I was very keen to use this early on. Otherwise, we had the some of the colonial stuff I was talking about. So looking at the openings for the colonials here, we see a very hostile opening for England against France. Plymouth went into Estuary, and Boston bounced via Marie out of Mohawk, which is a very aggressive anti-French opening from England here. I believe England told France they were going to allow them into Mohawk, only to bounce them out. So this was an immediate, essentially just declaration of war against France. What this meant is very early on, everyone could see there was not an EF. That was very big for the colonial dynamics. That was a pretty defining moment there, because the EF is one of the best alliances in imperial diplomacy, and just seeing very early out the gate that was not happening, I think influenced a lot of the other colonial politics. Otherwise, a lot of the other openings for colonials were mostly standard. Cochin going for Madurai is somewhat standard. Here in India, yeah, a lot of the other colonial openings, at least in this first year, were relatively standard. The one major issue for me is I asked Spain for Caracas. However, they moved Panama to Cartagena and Bogota to Orinoco, which is not very good. I will eventually get dislodged. I will, in the fall here, get dislodged from Caracas, which was probably a mistake on my part immediately. I probably should have gone for Barbados immediately, but I did not. I did make the greedier play and go for Caracas, which slowed me down a little bit, but long term, this was a very recoverable thing. And I still did very well in the Caribbean. Otherwise, I am very happy about this Africa position, just looking at these first moves. I had mentioned to France that we would both go into Tejene and Tukulor, and I stabbed this and went for Ndakaru. Now, I have a little bit of a hot take after having played Poland a bit. And that hot take is, I don't think Poland ever should not order, like, Poland should always order Jacob Ford and Dundalk. I think in every game they should. I very rarely see a situation where allowing France into Indak in the first year is a good decision, or in the first turn at least. Now, what you ideally want is this exact situation. You want to convince France to move to Tukulor, and you want to walk into Indak. This is good for a few reasons, because it lets you take a chance and go for St. Louis. And if you can eliminate St. Louis, you are vastly simplifying your Africa position, which is fantastic. If not, no biggie. You still have Ndak. You have a relatively good position. You still have a likely pocketed Dejeuner. If not, it's going to be held by maybe England. But if England's going to do that, then they have to leave Ouagadougou open. But at the very least, you don't have France adjacent to Jacob Fort. Poland is a very unique colonial. They essentially have to succeed in both of their colonies in some capacity in order to win. Out of every Poland that has won a game of imperial diplomacy, all but one of them had both colonies in some capacity. The only exception was from way back in Alpha 2, there was a Poland who won in a game without Africa. But that game 1 was way old, all the way back in Alpha 2. And also, Mali was there. So, Mali makes the whole dynamic in that area very different. But generally, as Poland, you want to fight for both of your colonies. They are very valuable, despite what you'd think. Because VSEC-wise, Poland is identical to a 5-center regional if both of their colonies grab 2 dots. For you as Poland, that could be Indak and Dejeuner, and then Caracas and Barbados. And then, well, you're basically just a 5-center regional. Well, that sounds like you don't need your colonies that bad. The issue is your long-term expansion in Europe is relatively difficult. You have to, long-term, either get fleets into the Mediterranean and start pushing south, get fleets into the Black Sea and start pushing into the Caucasus, break your stalemate with Russia, break the stalemate in Central Europe and push through Germany into Paris, or get fleets down in the North Sea or the Norwegian Sea and push out toward England. All of which are hard. Outside of the sphere of, like, Arkhangelsk down to, like, Krakow or Kharkov, and then kind of along the coast over to Venice, and then about up to Kiel, and then the Swedish area. That is about the extent of where you can grow without just stalemating. And that is a pretty big issue for you in Europe, which is where your colonies come in. So, while you may technically only need 6 to become essentially a 5-center European regional, you absolutely want more than 6. Unless you foresee your game going on for a very long time, where you have time to put down a bunch of cores and you have time to invest and push out, and you're preparing that for that very early on, your colonies need to succeed, and because of that, you cannot risk Indak. France can survive without St. Louis. You cannot survive without Jacob Fort. And so, you'll see I do end up dotting France for St. Louis here immediately in the first year, which makes my Africa position absolutely amazing. But that is my hot take on Poland and their West Africa position. It is very important that it survives, despite being a very bad position. Otherwise, I did want to talk, I think, a little more about Russia here. Early on, I had chatted with Safavids, I had chatted with the Ottomans, I had chatted a bit with the Mughals as well, I talked with Sweden. All 4 of them were fighting Russia. All 4 of them intended at this point to fight Russia. And then I also see a very anti-Russia opening from Qing, moving into Gobi and moving into Orgu, as well as an Inuit going for Yakutsk. What this tells me immediately is Russia does not have a lot of friends at this point. Russia is already going into the first year of the game a pariah. And this is very good for me as Poland. Because a tip for imperial diplomacy specifically is if a nation is a pariah, they don't really have any other allies, be their friend. Any offer you give them is likely to work out for you because they don't have any other offers. If you can give someone like Russia just really anything, security, just help long term against a mutual neighbor, they will be your best friend for the entire game. And for a lot of this game, Russia was a very close ally of mine. And a lot of that stemmed immediately from Russia being attacked on a lot of these, on essentially all sides by all these powers, is it allowed me to get in with Russia very early and have them as a very strong ally right from the start of the game. Especially with them opening somewhat hostile here. Not super hostile, but a little too hostile toward the Ottomans, and Moscow moving south into Kharkov. The Moscow moving south into Kharkov was very interesting here. Russia, I was able to use that to fearmonger Russia into Tabriz and Trebizond, one of them being supported into Kabardia, and continue to, essentially isolate Russia. Because not only did the Ottomans and the Safavids and the Mughals and all that mention that they were attacking Russia, in my press, I was telling them, hey, they're gonna attack you. I was actively trying to isolate Russia from all of these other powers so that they could not work something out. So that they would be under the assumption that they would attack if they did work together. And that was especially easy to use with Tiflis and Durban. Because I could mention, hey, Russia, the Safavids and the Ottomans, they're going to not let you into Kabardia. They're going to support you into it, or support the other into it, and they're going to attack you. And just throw out some words like that, regardless of whether or not they're true. It gives Russia the thought that they need to play very safe against these powers and build against them for security. And yeah, it really does help. It sounds a bit strange to say to isolate your allies, but in a situation like this, where Russia is getting attacked by a couple of these powers, it does help. I believe that is about all I have for the initial spring moves here. So I will go ahead. Retreats. Well, this is the first year. We don't have many of them. So let's go on to the next one. And fall moves. So, looking at Europe. It looks like my idea here was not super successful to isolate Russia and make them my immediate ally. That is fine. They ended up bouncing me out of Ochkiv instead of supporting me into it, as they mentioned they would. But I still have a great position here. Russia is working with me up north, though. And Russia did, in fact, get attacked by the Mughals and the Safavids. Well, it looks like the Ottomans are working with the Russians here. No one else is. They got forced out of Karakorum by Qing. They're getting attacked by Ming. They're getting, pressured by Inuit here. And Sweden was attacking them as well. Sweden's play was a little strange here. Their plan was to build an army in Umeå and walk into Narva, letting Russia into Abo so they could force it, which they do end up doing, I believe. But I mean, the play worked out. It's just a little strange to see immediately a Sweden hard push against Russia like this. But I will take it. If I'm trying to isolate Russia from their allies and or from any potential allies and just fight with Russia against the Ottomans and against the Swedish, perfect. This is great. Now, looking over here, another thing that was very nice that I see is Austria open to Slavonia and then into Sarajevo, managing to actually walk into Sarajevo. This was very nice to see. Like, Austria does get booted out of here, but Austria getting Sarajevo in the first year, this is war. This is a death war between the Ottomans and the Austrians. And that is just so nice for me. If I can convince Russia, who is now further and further isolated from their enemies, to work with me, I have a front against the Ottomans with Austrian and Russian help. And that is a very, very nice place to be as Poland. Looking up north here, relatively standard moves. Berlin to Lubeck, Krakow to Berlin, Sweden taking Copenhagen and Kiel. We did not have a Bremen, we did not have an Austria in Bremen this year. Which actually meant I had a guaranteed walk in O2 into Bremen if I wanted to, which is very nice. You'll see what I did in O2 here very soon, but yeah, Europe, despite me not getting one, I still have the pocket in Königsberg. I'm in a great position overall still. My position is fantastic here. Relatively standard openings in the rest of Europe. We can see the Dutch and the French working together against England immediately. And this Dutch and French alliance will last for most of the game as well. So, this is also something to consider. Now, we can see here in Africa, I do in fact get the walk into St. Louis. This is fantastic. England mentioned to me walking into Tgene, which I said, sure, that's fine. I didn't I couldn't do anything about this, and if I said no, I had the feeling that England was just going to walk to Jena anyway. So my thought was I should just be peaceful and be chill. Now, the St. Louis dot. I got very lucky by getting this, because I think dotting St. Louis is just kind of the right play for Poland. France can survive without this. So France, this is by no means the end of your alliance with the French. This is a very forgivable dot, because you have a potential mutual enemy in Austria. You have a potential mutual enemy in Spain or England or the Netherlands down here. You have potential enemies in all of your other fronts. And so you absolutely have things that you can work together for, and dotting St. Louis so early on isn't something that they're going to remember a year or two down the line when you're working together against a mutual colonial power or like killing Austria together. It is not something they're going to hold against you long term, and it gets them out of Africa, at least out of West Africa. And then, yeah, we can see here, not super surprisingly, I get forced out of Caracas. This is not the best situation, but it's survivable. It means I just had to do good press with Spain here, convince them not to attack me and to attack someone else. But looking at a lot of the other colonials, this death war continues. England gets into Mohawk and Estuary, putting a lot of pressure on Ville-Marie. England gets forced out of St. Anthony by the Inuit and the French. We see Inuit taking a good bit of space here. They do actually get denied a second dot over here in Antigua um, by the Dutch player walking into Guadalupe. The Dutch actually did manage a double this year. They go up to 28 after this turn. England, yeah, getting bounced out of Aceh here in Sumatra. The English did not have a very good year here. If I remember correctly, they went somewhere around +9 in their first year. Um, they did get a little bit hurt by the Dutch siding with France here and fighting England right off the bat, which I think was the right play for both powers. This is why an 0-1 opening is, especially to Colonial, is very risky. It can pay off, but attacking France so early on is a very risky play because it makes, especially right now, if somebody like the Netherlands just says, well, I'd rather fight England than France, then you're not in the best position. Our standout colonials immediately are Spain and the Netherlands, though. Spain also did very good, going +15. The only non-dot, the only unit not to grab a dot was Strait of Gibraltar, which convoyed Valencia to Tangier. So Spain also had a very good year. They got into Cotabato. They got into kind of anywhere they would want to. Um, yeah. Now that I have gone over the first year, I want to ask Char, do you have any thoughts on the first year of the game here, on the moves going on?
Um, I'm gonna push back a little bit on you saying your position is fantastic. I think it's certainly playable, but +5 is really questionable with a power like Poland because not gaining 5 dots in Europe, that's fine, that's manageable. But not gaining a dot in the Caribbean is worse. Um, Getting booted out of Caracas is fine. I see that you retreated into Gulf of Paria, which I think is fine. I think I would have preferred Caribbean Sea, but that might just be because you already stabbed France in one spot, and I think France still has a unit in West Africa that they're going to remember that with.
Yeah,
That
also
said,
partially the fleet in Guyana Current. Because if I had built in Cap Haitian, if I had retreated to Caribbean Sea, it would have potentially led to me getting forced out by Cap Haitian and France disliking me for doing this at this point. Retreating to Gulf of Paria signals to France that, hey, I'm not gonna fuck with you. I'm going to try to consolidate my own position here. Um, it's a very passive play, which I think is what I needed to show France right now. And as you'll see soon, I use it for very great things in the very near future and almost immediately mend my relationship with Spain.
that's
Um,
pretty good. I notice a couple things very good about your position. Beyond you only going +5, Ottomans only go +6.
yeah, and just
Um,
Austria in Sarajevo denying a build there, Constantinople being covered by an army denying a build there. The only builds they could do anywhere near me were in Smyrna and Salonika in the first year.
yeah, those being the closest builds to you is pretty helpful. You still have 2 on Achakiv and the third if Russia supports you. Um, Narva is horribly isolated.
Yeah,
From Sweden, you build. I think you can easily build a fleet in Wilno, pop it out to Gulf of Riga, and take that for yourself. I think that's pretty easy. You have the pocketed dot in Königsberg. You have Bremen. Your year 2 growth is looking good. You have Ndakaru pocketed. Degene is isolated. Your Caribbeans just looks tenuous to me.
yeah, the Caribbean is the only point here that's not just fantastic, because the other thing to mention about Europe, it was only a +4 Russia in the first year.
That's
Karakura
true.
got retreated.
Or it was +5. It was +5,
Plus,
but
oh, +5. Am I miscounting? Yeah, I'm miscounting. Wait, or
Kabardia,
no, or am I?
Bakchis, Kabardia,
Abo,
Bakchis,
Kavardia,
Rai,
Bakshi,
Abo,
Turkish. Oh, right, Spitsbergen.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it was a +5 Russia, which is definitely not, definitely like definitely good for me.
As a current
They have,
as a person currently playing Russia, you don't want this. This is not what you want.
yeah, especially seeing that they have a hostile Qing to deal with and a hostile Ming, as well as the Safavids denying them Kiva and going for and taking it themselves with Mughal assistance. This shows that Russia is going to struggle early, and just once again, Russia's isolated, and Russia being isolated is fantastic for me.
I agree.
Um,
I think the and if we like let's just think about prospective builds. Safavid's doubled. They're gonna build a fleet in the Caspian, and Russia hardly has the build to spare a fleet in the Caspian.
yeah, I believe they did actually build a fleet in the Caspian, and all like for the next like 6 years, all those two fleets did was bounce in the Caspian year over year.
See, this
Like,
is why I much prefer the. This is why I much prefer it as Russia trying to actually ally the Safavids hard enough in the first year to not get them to build that fleet. And also, as you mentioned, isolating your allies. Like, if as Russia, you ally the Safavids and then fearmonger them to all their neighbors, Safavids can struggle to build that Caspian fleet
yeah.
if you're their only
So
friend.
for me, seeing this fleet in Astrakhan and this fleet in Tehran, and just them sit there bouncing each other for years on end, not accomplishing anything, that is fantastic for me. The
Yeah, they're
other
essentially
good
wasted
thing,
builds that, and Astrakhan can't do anything to you.
now, the other good thing, I don't actually remember if I did do this, but I believe I got. No, this was later. Now, if we look at builds, Ottomans ended up building a fleet in Trebizond. Now, this was perfect fuel for the fire to Russia, saying, look, fleet in Trebizond from the Ottomans. The Ottomans are going to attack you. Fleet in Tehran from the Safavids. The Safavids are going to attack you, just further isolating Russia. At this point, I was basically their only ally. And that was a very good position for me to be in, with everyone else attacking them. The other thing we could see now that we're on the builds thing is, though, Sweden. So Sweden had asked me to DMZ the Baltic and to hard commit to this Central European alliance. Now, early on, I'm all for this. You know, I love to see Sweden say, "Oh, I'm not going to build any fleets in the Baltic." A Stockholm and A Umea is just such a good year one build set of builds to see if you are Poland. It is fantastic. I think I did suggest to Sweden or ask to be allowed to build a fleet in Gdansk, which did not end up happening. I was very concerned about whether or not I should build a fleet in Gdansk. I had thought about it a lot this first build phase because I would get a decent stab off, like, now if I built a fleet in Gdansk, but it would be slow because in this version, Gdansk is not adjacent to Baltic Sea, so it would have to go through Gulf of Gdansk first. So in hindsight, yeah, it's very good that I did not end up building a fleet here and trusting Sweden. But it was a hard thing to consider because if Sweden was leading me on, I was very dead. If Fleet Umea and Stockholm came down, I was in a very bad position. But luckily, Sweden stuck to their word, and we got to DMZ the Baltic. Now, looking elsewhere, an army comes down here in Africa, and somehow Portugal decides to waive their build in Cabo Verde. I'm looking at this position right now and going, okay, I am winning in Africa.
I
Um,
also I also would like to say that Fleet Cormonton, that's a crazy build.
yeah, England also agreed to build a fleet in Cormonton. So I have no opposition at all in Africa at this point already. Other than maybe the two Portuguese armies up north, but that is a manageable problem. And just looking at this right now, Africa is very free. It is. I know already that I'm doing well in Africa. I mean, you can never rely on Portugal just waving Cabo Verde, but the fact that they did is very lucky for me. Now, over here in South America, the one build that was concerning to me was Fleet Parmerbo. Fleet Parmerbo attacks me, and that's what it does. It the Dutch, in my mind, were eyeing on consolidating their power here in the Caribbean, trying to get a stronghold in like Puerto Rico, Antigua, Barbados, New Courland, down into Caracas, and all this. That is what this fleet in Palermo signals. It signals that their long-term goal in the Caribbean is to consolidate as hard as they can. Now, I had asked Netherlands not to do this, but despite that, they essentially went, "No, I'm building a fleet in Palermo." And so this signaled to me, the Dutch are fighting me. Maybe not now, but eventually the Dutch are fighting me. So, my thought was, okay, if I continue to let the Dutch consolidate power here, I'm gonna die. Because the Dutch could get fleets down faster than I can by a pretty wide margin. They have the dot in Palermo, they have the dot in St. Martin. They can push fleets through South Atlantic into Guyana Current through Maur, and they can even bridge fleets over from their large colonies over in Africa. If I go to an early fleet war with the Dutch, I lose. So I need to do something about it. Um, and that's where the board is at now. We see more builds signifying that England and France are going to be hostile to each other. Very, very nice to see that there's no EF happening. Otherwise, builds are relatively standard. Fleet Ostracon's very good to see. An army Novgorod and Moscow, these end up going up. Very nice to see as well. So, I'm going to the 1643 moves. So, looking at down here in the Caribbean, what I ended up doing is immediately piecing out Spain. So, I used the Dutch double to essentially kill two birds with one stone. I got the Spanish to back off me by convoying Caracas into Brocapondo, and also got the Dutch threat against me dealt with in one fell swoop here. Myself and Spain immediately set up, a safe border for each other. Spain is going to be occupied in their other fronts fighting England. I have essentially convinced Spain that, hey, I'm worth keeping around, while also having dealt with the Dutch, who were going to be a problem. And this starts a very long stretch of me and Spain working together in the Caribbean. I believe in exchange for doing this move, I was given Caracas for doing so. So getting the dot in, giving this free convoy was just a fantastic turnaround for me in the Caribbean. My Caribbean goes from concerning, like in a concerning position to just dominate pretty much immediately with this. Spain is completely off my border. Spain has enemies on both sides to deal with, and I now have a three center colony pretty much immediately because I get Barbados and I get Caracas here. My Caribbean is looking fantastic. I can consolidate, I can put cores down, I can start building fleets. This is the exact position you want to see is Poland in your Caribbean. Um, so the Dutch also get stabbed here in Indonesia by Spain with help of Ayutthaya. And this is also something that's very nice to see. Seeing the Dutch doing badly here tells me, okay, so the Dutch are no longer a problem. By doing this convoy, I have
Funny you
essentially
say that, knowing how this
solved the
game
Dutch.
ends.
Oh yeah, no. At least in the Caribbean, they're no longer a problem. But in another theater, spoilers, they become a problem. But at least in the Caribbean, my Caribbean is very safe. Looking into Africa, I'm just in the best position here. I'm getting Dejene this turn. I'm getting Indak this turn. I have 4 dots in Africa already this year, and it's the second year of the game. Like, both of these are assured. I am so happy. Rather than take Niane with their fleets, Portugal ended up pushing their fleets out into South Atlantic and going for this convoy from Azores into Cape Coe against France, which is a very
That is
interesting
a
play.
fascinating convoy.
Yeah, but the downside for Portugal is it left Niani open, meaning I had even more area to end up just eating down here
Yeah,
in.
I would honestly, I think I remember you talking about this in your void about you keeping Endak pocketed for another year.
I considered it. I considered going Tukulor to Dejene and Dejene down to Niani and just leaving Indak pocketed in Africa and holding a frontline position. I didn't end up doing it because England wanted England. It would have damaged my English relationship too much to be worth it.
I think
But it
that's
was
fair.
something I considered. Now looking back here at Europe, we noticed some funny business, so to speak, with a certain Lubeck unit walking into Kiel.
I remember you talking about this.
Yes. So this, I am not entirely sure how I convinced Sweden to do this. Now, I believe this is mostly because Sweden is a newer player. But Sweden had a lot of trust in me after I had done our Baltic DMZ. And so what I had pitched to Sweden is that Sweden would go fight England with French and Dutch help and would eventually convoy me over to London. Now, I said, well,
That's
if we want to
fascinating.
it was a very interesting play from Sweden
Very
here to
ambitious.
accept this.
Very ambitious.
Very ambitious, yes. But I had told Sweden, well, if you let me walk into Kiel, I can then uh, back into Jutland, and then you can convoy me over. And Sweden said, oh, that's fine. I'd just also like to take Bremen. And so, I go, sure, go ahead, take Bremen. I'm fine with this. And so this year ends with Sweden in Bremen, me in Kiel, me in Berlin. And Sweden moves Copenhagen out to Skag. Sweden is shifting all of their fleets out toward England. They're shifting all of their armies out toward Russia. Sweden is just walking away from me, and I am walking into their dots. It is a fantastic position for me to be in.
Not only are you walking into their dots, you're walking into their dots with their permission.
Yes, walking into their dots with with Swedish permission, no less. Um,
It's
so
just fascinating to me. I cannot
yeah,
believe that not only did they agree that, like, it's not like you pitched this and they agreed to it. They pitched this.
no, I pitched it and they agreed.
Oh, you
Uh,
pitched you
yes,
pitched
I
walking into the field
mentioned
behind
this.
them.
Yes, and they agreed. I was mentioning because I was Sweden had an idea that they had for long-term play between me and Sweden, where essentially I would push really far through Russia into Asia to get my dots, and then I would
Oh
push
my
out into the
god.
ocean through my colonies. And so their
That's
idea was to get me into England so that I could get a core down and just push fleets out into the North Atlantic.
oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
That is
so
that
I mean, long term, that plan was not working. It was way too slow. It would have been way too slow. I mean, it could have worked, but it would have put my game in a lot more jeopardy, and it would have been a lot riskier than just doing what I did, which is stabbing for Kiel and Bremen. It was a lot riskier of a play than just taking the dots now and ending off my alliance with Sweden. But otherwise, we see I get the force on Ochkiv here, which is very nice, and I get to back Wilno into Kiev. I already have a very good front against the Ottomans here. There is a bunch of chaos happening between the Ottomans and the Austrians. The Ottomans full commit against Russia here. They force Kabardia with Safavid help. The Russians just continue to fight the Safavids here. They're fighting the Qing here. It's just murder all around for Russia, except for between myself and Russia. Russia is just fighting everyone but me, and I am very happy to see it. Um, but yeah, looking at it, I think we're pretty good. England and France are still fighting. Portugal is doing Portugal things, and Spain actually does stab Portugal this turn. They end up getting Lisbon and Porto. This puts Spain in a very strong position. My next concern in my mind is doing something about Spain. Now, I try to placate them by just being their ally. Uh, which I think it works pretty well for me long term here because I just mentioned, hey, I want Caracas, I want Barbados, and I want my little three-dot colony, and I want a vibe. And Spain is okay with that. If I am helping them against the Dutch, if I'm throwing them free supports, if I'm throwing them free convoys, Spain loves this. And so I continue to help Spain. I keep on chugging along. Spain is, my greatest ally here, and that's how I'm going to deal with them. But looking at the next year or the next turn, we get some retreats. These are not crazy relevant. We do see a forced disband of the Ottoman army and split. The Austrians are doing very well against the Ottomans here. Otherwise, yeah, we get the Rocafando convoy succeeds, meaning that Palermo is assured. The Spanish actually secured support from Ipurina into Amazonia here. So we see the Dutch take a big hit here, which is very good to see. I also, as you probably saw, managed to broker at least a very temporary peace between Spain and France, or not Spain and France, England and France here. I had convinced France to support Antigua into Guadeloupe. Um, and this forces Guadeloupe out back into St. Martin to retreat and defend. Now, this EF splits basically immediately, but for at least a turn, I convinced them to work together instead of just death warring, so that they could police the Dutch and mostly the Dutch for me, at least for a turn. But going to our next phase, this is now fall moves. You'll see Yeah, I stab Sweden very hard. I force Bremen. Bremen is actually forced to retreat into Munster here because North Sea went into Wadensee. Um, Meaning I'm picking up another 2 dots here. I'm picking up Ochkiv against Russia. There's a bunch of bounces over here. The Ottomans attempt the convoy in the Bakchi, which holds. Very, very good things here. I actually managed to get intel to give Ottomans this information. I actually gave Ottomans the idea. I told them I was gonna I was gonna support their convoy in the Bakchi. But then, I just went around and told Russia what the Ottomans are doing. So the Russians actually managed to get a slip into Tiflis here. Now that I'm full stabbing Sweden, Russia trusts me implicitly. Um, I made sure they didn't lose Abo here. I made sure they got Narva here. I made sure that, they managed to actually get Kiva here. Russia's doing well, but I'm not
These
concerned.
these
Because
Sweden
Russia,
moves fascinate me and just how kind of bad they are.
yeah, the Sweden, I think Sweden, one of the big things I think Sweden did is of my rules, I think they violated, I think, two. Having contingency plans against all neighbors at all times, and acting in service to another player above yourself. I think they were playing very, very friendly toward me, and they just didn't have a plan if I fought them.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have gone for this. Ever. There's no world where you ever let Poland into Kiel. As Sweden
Yeah,
did.
you sit there or you try and go for Lubeck, I think is what you should have done as Sweden.
Likely, yeah. Like, we could have negotiated, I get Bremen, you get Lubeck, or something of this sort. We could have, that is traditionally, as Sweden, what you want to play here. You want to play into Poland. You don't want to fight, because Poland-Russia is hard as Sweden here. So, if you're going to play with Poland, you need to play, I think their Russia play is good. I just don't. I think they just gave me too good of a stab here over in the Kiel Bremen area.
Mhm.
Just I was just given too much.
I think their tactics against Russia were just bad. I think what they should have done is not tap Kola with Umea. They should have support held Abo with Umea and had Narva be the one moving to
Well, I had
Pskov.
in this specific scenario, I had told Sweden that I had gotten Russian move leaks, which were false. So these tactics were because I lied to them.
Oh, you know what? That's reasonable. But
Yeah, I had lied to them about Russia was doing. I had told them I don't remember specifically what. I believe I told them they were gonna try to force Abo with uh Pskov, like Sakov, being
or from
supported by
Pskov,
Kola.
yeah.
Yeah, I something of that sort. So yeah,
Even
no,
then,
these
you
these
don't
tactics were a
even
lie.
then if with Narva, you don't support that move. If you're tapping Kola, you don't support Abo out with Narva
No,
because then
I would have
Russia keeps
support
the dot
held
anyway.
Abo. I would have support held Abo here. Like with Umea, I would have just taken the slower thing. I would have just taken the dot, just continued the advance. That lets you
Yeah.
next year push into Cola. That lets you, do whatever. No, these were bad tactics from Sweden, but they were bad tactics I intentionally fed to Sweden so they would do badly. Um,
That's fair.
Yeah. Otherwise, yep. In Africa, everything's going as I'd like it to. Now that Spain has stabbed Portugal, these two armies are not a problem anymore. These two armies are going to go fight
Yeah,
Spain. I am home
that's
free in Africa to do whatever I want.
yeah, you essentially got a free Africa. I do think that the Spain stab on Portugal is very good. It's
Oh, it's
so
it's a
strong.
really good stab, and it's also good for me.
It's a strong stab. It's +3 for Spain instantly, I believe.
Oh yeah, Rabat, Lisbon, and Porto, and then I don't believe they got anything anywhere else. Yeah, they did not,
They
but it's
didn't
still a
no,
plus
they
three
did
stab.
not. Yeah, the 3 dot stab is pretty solid. It eliminates Portugal from essentially an entire theater. You got your Tangier Precore open for another army to boot out Tafilalt. It's very, very good stab.
Yeah. Great stab from Spain here. Spain ends up doing very well this game, and
Yeah.
yeah, I like this Spain position, and well, luckily I have it under control. As thanks for convoying them to Brocopondo, I was allowed to walk into Caracas by Spain here,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm not sure if this works out well for them because I'm like Spain. Let's be long-term allies here, and it does work out well for them. But I'm not sure if Spain would allow this normally. If they should have, I would have in their position. I likely would have been like, well, let's at least pop Parmerbo first, and then you can take it next year. But
I can appreciate the Cape Coe to Maritstad 3-on-3 bounce between Portugal and
yes,
Netherlands.
the convoy from Cape Coe into Marstad, which
That
is
is
very
fascinating.
strange because they have not yet capped Cape Coe. Cape Coe is
Yes.
still a French dot, and they're rather than
I
just
think that
using
this was-
SAO4 to try to force it, they're using Cape Coe to convoy.
This reads to me as Portugal saying to France, "Oh shit, Spain just stabbed me. Let's peace out, please. I beg you." And then France like halfway agreeing to it because of
Not
course
with
they do.
not with Sakalava. No, like the force on Sakalava is just signaling that Portugal's just gonna die, and that's kind of what happens here. This was the Portuguese
Yeah.
player's first game. As somebody who started with a first as a colonial in their first game, it's hard.
My first game was a Spain sub-in, so I feel the pain there.
My first game, I scrap Loniald as Spain.
Oh,
So,
that's a tough one. That's
yeah.
a tough one.
And so there was a very strong player on the Netherlands in that game too. So I ended up dying very early. Also, Portugal in that game was was actually the Ottoman player who for the first year of this game before they subbed out. So
That is I'm just looking around the board now for interesting things. That's an Abyssinia +1, I think.
yeah, Abyssinia does come into play a lot later. With the Ottomans doing very badly, the Abyssinians naturally do quite well. They do end up doing decently well against Ajuran here. It is slow gains, but eventually Ajuran does die to Abyssinia.
Yeah, I think that this is the funniest Congo +3 I've ever seen because it looks like they're getting just bulldozed and then they don't.
Yeah, they have
I
like
actually-
Ajuran has a very forward position here on Congo, and they just don't lose anything.
Yeah,
Congo
goes
does very
+3.
good this game. Congo is a very, very good player to watch out for. They have very good play. I, in hindsight, am not surprised that Congo managed to dig themselves out of this hole. Like Congo's a very good player.
Yeah, I notice that the EF breaks damn near immediately.
Yeah, the turn after it was formed, it breaks.
Well, it kind of breaks. That's the thing. It halfway breaks, but France just stabs everywhere while also supporting England into Azores.
Yeah, it's strange, but yeah, they're fighting. I mean, France walks into Plymouth, France dots St. John's, France dots Antigua, France forces, I believe they're forcing Mohawk here. It's a little bit hard to see with the arrows, but France stabs England very hard. It's definitely not in the F anymore.
France actually supports Mohawk to Oneida and then walks into Mohawk, which
That's
hilariously
what's going on.
which gives the Dutch a retreat into Ville-Marie.
Which they don't actually end up taking. They just disband the unit.
Which is fascinating to me because how as France do you pitch that?
Yeah, because the Dutch also don't have builds this year. They're exactly neutral. So walking into Ville-Marie would give them a build. Well, I mean, also disbanding the unit would, but I mean, they'd get a build.
A dot is a dot is a dot, and France A dot is a dot, and France is in Hesse. I would not be happy disbanding that unit as Dutch.
Otherwise, actually, Ute is stabbing Spain. This is very nice to see. Spain generally struggles against Ute here. You love to see it. It's going to slow down Spain's growth early.
Small problems that
Spain
is still building full. Spain is still +4.
Yeah, they're still doing great, but they're not out of control. Spain is definitely not out of control, which is the big part.
Yeah.
Also, Ayutthaya stabs them too.
Oh yeah, they walk into Sulusi.
Yeah, and also Sarawak, which assures Cotabato, assuming they get Dutch help, which they will now. So
Banjarmasin can't actually support that. Banjarmasin is a fleet.
Well, no, Banjarmasin can cut Celeb SC and then assure it, because if Sulusi moves into Cotabato, it can't be cut.
Yeah, it's actually a 50-50 on that one, which is really strange.
Yeah, I mean, but essentially, yeah. Still, same thing.
Good position.
Ayutthaya is attacking Spain. Spain's not going to be out of control. England, France, Dutch are all fighting each other. Portugal's basically dead. Right now, we can see we don't have a runaway colonial. Well, not a runaway. Standard colonial, that is.
Well, yeah. I know we have the distinction between hybrids. I still consider Poland a colonial.
Yeah, I'd say they count, because Jacob Fort and New Orleans, while Ottomans and Russia and the Russians are large, and Inuit is borderline. Yeah. Poland is definitely a colonial. They're just not the one that you expect to run away with the game.
Correct. Poland is normally a little slower.
Going to retreats here, I don't think anything too important happens. We get a forced disband of the Dutch fleet in Puerto Rico. The unit Oneida pops from the Dutch. The Ottomans retreat into...
Bremen disband.
Yeah, Bremen disband, meaning Sweden does get a build here, just off of disbands, because Narva also got forced plopped. But we see Sarajevo retreat into Salonika here, meaning no builds from the Ottomans in Salonika. Yeah, so there are some nice retreats here and there.
No, they got split blown up. That's a build.
Yeah, they get like one, but we know it's not coming down in Salonika at least, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's probably coming down in Constantinople.
Yeah.
It might come down in Cairo, actually.
I actually got 7 builds here, while still having Königsberg pocketed. And having Kiev full, meaning I am waiving a build by force here.
Correct, because you can only build in 6 spots.
Yes, and spoiler, for the next, I think, 3 consecutive years, I'm also waiving a build.
Yeah, I do remember this being mentioned. Or I remember seeing it, actually, because I was a spec in your void, but...
Yes, so, looking at the next, looking at builds here, yep, the Sweden stab is fully in motion, Fleet Welno, Fleet Gdansk. Yep, that army comes down in Constantinople. We see a fleet coming out in Jacobsfort with no build Capo Verde, meaning it's pretty much just mine. Africa continues to look amazing. More fleets down in the Caribbean here. Very nice. Now, something I should mention. At this point, the Ottomans very publicly and very openly state they intend to just death war Austria for pretty much the rest of the game.
Which, I think in Ottoman's position, I kind of understand it.
Yeah, Austria immediately attacked the Ottoman player. And also, the Austrian player had very much so annoyed the Ottoman player or angered them in some way in press. I'm not sure the specifics, but the Ottomans were very not happy at the Austrians. And so I, as Poland, would love to help the Ottomans kill Austria. I have no issues with that. You know, if the Ottomans want to just have Austria die, I am 100% willing to facilitate that. And so, at this point, if I go to the moves for 1644, you can see I force Pressburg. I'm walking into Silesia. I'm forcing Saxony with French help because I finally talked to the French and say, hey, let's kill Austria together. And they
Mm-hmm.
agree. As you can see, the French actually managed to core Olata, meaning they aren't actually entirely out of Africa just yet. Them getting their
I
free
did
core
I
in
did
Olata.
see that, and I'm just like, okay, they're gonna build there now, right?
Just they end up dotting Timbuktu and then not building an Olata, which is so funny. But yeah, I talked to France. I'm like, hey, let's be friends. And they're happy with it. The only concerning thing I saw was Mona Passage to Ava's Ridge happened, but I managed to talk them out to just go into Guadalupe here. But
Mm-hmm.
France does move into Avis Ridge, which is the only real concerning thing that happens to me this phase. Um, but otherwise, Spain is still fighting Netherlands. The Netherlands are getting hit pretty hard. Congo is really starting to do well. They get more positioning on the Dutch here. Europe is kind of still a
I
shit show, but it's a shit show that I'm benefiting from because I am fighting Austria with basically all of their neighbors' help.
I'm reading through the Austria Ottomans press, and I can completely understand why the Ottomans did not want to work with him anymore.
Yeah, the Austrians had also done some things with me, in my press, where they would essentially tell me and the Ottomans two different things, and then me and the
Mhm.
Ottomans would go to each other and be like, "Wait, what did Austria tell you? This," and then, "Hey, what did Austria tell you?" And then we'd say completely different things.
I
This
had this something
is
similar. I had something similar happen in my 1.6 game, except it happened where I was the one lying to both of them, and I got absolutely creamed for it.
This is why Rule
So
9 of my 10 Commandments of Imperial Diplomacy comes in. Be careful when lying. Doing so too much could ruin your credibility, and you should be prepared to fight anyone you lie to.
yeah,
Um, this is why. If you go
I
to every
think
power lying to them relentlessly and trying to position yourself like 4 steps ahead of them all, it's not going to work.
yeah.
They're just going to say, I don't know what I can trust of this power. I'm going to fight him.
It's why I like that. It's why my main skill when it comes to imperial diplomacy is groveling. It's a shockingly effective thing to do. I mean, we can laugh about that, but it is shockingly effective.
It can be. There are some unorthodox strategies that are very effective. Like, I am of the opinion that public square crash outs are an effective strategy.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yep, they work for me. They work really well for me. They
you
do
have
work
to do
really
them in a
well for me.
controlled manner, but they can absolutely work for you.
Yeah. I did a lot of those in 2.2, and I think I tugged on a couple people's heartstrings to get that to work.
But yeah, looking at the 1643 or 44 spring moves. Looking at the leaderboard already. I am second place. Only behind
Very,
Spain
very
and
nice.
VSCC. I'm very happy with my position on the leaderboard right now. Um, looking
Oh,
over,
I didn't really pay attention too much to this game. I only really paid attention to your regions. I'm looking at this East Asia. I now see how Qing lost. I was wondering how the hell they managed to lose. I see how it happened.
yeah, the Inuit
That's a
stab
brutal.
and the Toku
That's a
stab.
bru- that's a brutal stab from both
Toku
of
ends up
them.
doing pretty well. They don't do crazy well, but they end up doing pretty well. I think they end somewhere around like 16 to 17 centers this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, Toku did pretty nice. But yeah, going back to my area here, we have the Sweden stab is going off to a little bit of a slow start, but that's just kind of because I have to mobilize units. The
Yeah.
Austrian fight is very, very nice. Pressburg is forced to retreat to Trieste. and Saxony gets force disbanded. I
Yeah,
once again
Saxony
was
blown
feeding
up is
Austria
so
bad
good.
moves here. I fed the Austrians some very bad moves here, which ended up working out very nicely in my favor. They run over toward France with Venice. They do kind of just nothing over here uh, in the Balkans and just move their units further toward the Ottomans.
Hmm.
While I get everything I could ever want, I believe I have a assured Vienna here. We get the force disband on Saxony. You know, Nuremberg's gonna fall. Freiburg is gonna fall. Austria immediately just gets killed here. They actually, as soon as this phase adjudicated, they just pressed me, messaging me GG. So
I think I remember that.
yeah.
I remember a couple other random things around Europe being very important this phase of Spain coring Porto. That's going to be huge for them later, I
Spain
believe.
coring Porto is a very cool move this early.
Oh
Getting
yeah. You almost
fleets
never get to
out.
see something like it.
Oh yeah, getting fleets out in Iberian current early as Spain is very nice, especially for a France attack.
Yeah, this French move into Avis Ridge is very rude in the Caribbean. I just see that
Yeah,
move as just
luckily
why.
I was able to undo this, like defuse this, but yeah, I was concerned by this move in Avis region initially. France
I
have been
think the easiest
cooperative
way
with
to
me
diffuse it
elsewhere,
is I think
but
the
yeah.
easiest way to diffuse that move is you have a walk into Guadalupe, take it.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. Just take Guadalupe and finish your core in Antigua. Like, I'm not entirely sure why they did this. I believe they were just concerned I was going to stab them, but I was able to fix this very easily in press. I'm
I agree with
so
your
yeah.
moves in the sense that you want the second core in both of your colonies.
Oh,
You want the Endac
absolutely.
core and you want the Barbados core.
Well, I am coring Degene, but Degene is not going to
That's
finish its
true.
core. It's going to do
I
something
do remember
very
that.
funny. Also, you see, I am going for Cabo Verde, which is just the freest dot ever because Portugal has not built there. Meaning,
And Spain
already,
walked into
immediately,
Arguin, so it is actually free.
immediately,
I
my West Africa is just it's massive. It's going to be it's already shaping up to be 5 dots, and you'll notice Dejeuner does not finish its core, but rather dots something else, meaning after this turn, in
yeah, 6 dot,
1645, I already have a 6 dot Africa.
and it's being held by 3 armies and a fleet. And I'm
Yep.
pretty sure I remember you building a second fleet, which I absolutely hated as a build.
I did not do that next year. I did that the year after. So two
That's what
years
it
from now.
was. Yeah,
I did one of
I
each in
remember
Indak and
hating
Jacob.
that. I remember hating seeing those fleet builds. I'm just like, no, you need armies first. But I guess if everybody just does what you want, you can build fleets.
I mean, yeah, well, everybody's just doing exactly what I want them to across the whole board. You know, who cares what I build? Russia's doing what I'm asking. Ottomans are helping me kill Austria in a death war. France is helping me
Hmm.
kill Austria. Sweden is dying. You know, yeah, everyone is kind of doing what I'm asking.
Yeah.
It's a very good position to be in when everybody is helping you out. But that
Yeah,
will
and the good thing about
very
your position is
that'll
that people are incentivized to help you because they gain from helping you. I think Russia is the biggest example where like
that this is yeah.
they're not gonna get things off. They're not gonna get shit off you.
No, this is the perfect example of isolate your allies. Because isolating your allies makes them you're their only option. I mean, I can go to Russia and say, "Hey, look, you know, let's work together because everyone else wants to kill you, but I don't." And so,
Yes.
plain and simple, you know, they want to work together. And also,
Hmm.
still having the Königsberg pocket, still, despite this, is just great. My Europe is fantastic.
Yeah, you're just crushing it this whole board, honestly.
Yeah, looking at the next, looking now at our retreats.
Don't see anything super relevant
Not
to
really.
you.
Pressburg to Trieste, the forced disband in Saxony. Nothing else really of much relevance. So it's most of just what we kind of talked about. Going next to the fall moves, we can see things go pretty well. I get the force on Vienna. I get to keep Pressburg, which is very nice. Austria does not end up doing a line where they stop this. And France gets into Nuremberg. This is I believe, -4 Austria, because Sarajevo also falls.
Yeah, Austria
So
just
massive,
explodes.
massive Austrian losses.
Not only does Sarajevo get taken, it forces disbands, and Ottomans are just so well positioned to hit Austria.
Yeah, looking otherwise, here in Europe, I'm holding, everything down here by Kyiv and Lechkiv. I get a core finished in Riga. Russia manages to convoy Arkhangelsk into Finnmark through Barents Sea.
And does not have Arkhangelsk backfilled. Very nice
Oh,
moves.
yeah. Meaning they get to, I believe I got them to build a fleet in here, which is just so nice.
That's huge.
I finally in
Russia does not need a third fleet.
1644 take my pocket in Königsberg.
Yeah.
I get into Copenhagen here. I get into Baltic and Bothnia. My Sweden attack is really coming through. Austria is starting to really die. Great position at this point.
Yeah, you are +6 this year, I believe.
Yeah, speaking of great position, looking at Africa, I managed to dot Ouagadougou. I walk into Cabo Verde, making it even bigger.
Yep. That's a 6 West Africa. And I remember, I think, mentioning in your void, France is positive. They have this core in Ualata
which is now open. Because they dot Timbuktu.
Surely
they built
West Africa.
Surely.
I remember mentioning that in your void, and you're just like, "Oh, they told me they're not building it." And I'm like, "Why? Why though?"
Yeah. We also finished a core in Ndak here, and also in the Caribbean, we finished a core in Barbados. 3 cores finished this year. Very nice to see. 6 dots in West Africa. So actually, a unique observation I made at this point. Every unit in Africa that I've had has either finished a core or dotted a center on every turn.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
This army in Ndak started by dotting St. Louis, then dotting Ndak, and then coring Ndak. This unit in Djenne now moved into Djenne and dotted it, and then is now dotting Wag. And my other fleet is now dotting Cabo Verde.
Cabo Verde. Yeah, that's awesome.
My units in West Africa have been insanely productive. Now, my West Africa is horribly underbuilt. Not for my
that will come back
lack
I think
of...
that will come back. I remember that coming back to bite you in the ass.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not for my lack of, not building there. It's just that I haven't been able to build there fast enough.
Yeah, you're gonna get... You have so much growth, like, off Ottomans coming soon.
My Europe growth at this point is insane, yeah.
Like, you're gonna get this year, like, you're getting Stockholm probably, you're getting just on a rough note. Whoa, hold on. I just saw a Russian fleet building Kharkov. That's psychotic.
Oh, I'm not there quite yet. I can move to the next thing, yeah. Looking at the retreats,
I'm looking at builds.
Nothing too impactful. We do actually get a force disband on this unit in Gulf of Paria, or actually, I don't know if it was a force disband or just a disband, but regardless, the fleet in Paria, gone. The Dutch fleet there is gone now.
It had a Guiana current retreat, and the fact that it did not take it is wild.
Yeah, it honestly should have been a signal for what is coming up very soon, which we shall see. But looking here, we got a force disband in Sarajevo. We got I don't know if this, at least a disband. I don't know if they're forced, but disbands from Austria and Vienna and Sarajevo. Austria is really starting to kick it now. Overall, yeah, very, very good so far. And looking at the builds, I am building in every center once again. Throwing down another fleet in Wilno and a bunch more armies in Europe. Another army here in Africa, and another fleet down here in Courland, which, yeah,
and
no build from France in Olata.
And you are still down a unit because you
Yep,
only had
I'm
6
still
centers
down a
open.
unit.
You got
I still had a core that
+6.
was not open yet. So
Mhm.
in order, I went +5, then +7, and then +6. Which, if we look at the scoreboard now, I am
You are number
already
one
board topping in
because
1644.
Spain went +0, so you
Spain
are
went
now board
neutral, yes.
topping.
I had I believe, 11% or so VSCC lead already. So my
Yeah, that's
lead,
that's
I had a
awesome.
crazy lead. So for basically the only time ever, the runaway colonial was Poland.
It's Poland. It's the one with the infinitesimal starting colonial empire. Two
And
tiny
somehow
colonies.
I have 9 dots in between both of my colonies combined.
Yeah, actually, it's 10. 6 dots West Africa. Oh no, sorry, 9. 3 dot Caribbean.
Yes, 9 dots in 2 colonies as Poland.
Yeah, after year
Uh,
3, that's amazing.
yeah, my colonial empire is just absolutely killing it right now, and it's so early. So I'm
Yeah,
very happy right now about where I'm at. And so going through past builds, France is still chill. We're killing Austria together, very happy there. France is kind of getting wrecked a little bit here by some of these NA regionals. Spain is still reeling from the Schoenstab and trying to recover. England is dying. France is centralizing in the Caribbean. Good
Spain is
times.
struggling, but notably, Ute is also struggling because Athabasca
Actually,
step.
looking at it, both Abyssinia and Congo get 4 units down on the board this year.
Yep, that's that should be a sign to come.
Oh yes. So looking at what is going on now in our spring moves, I continue to fight Austria. I go for Trieste. I am getting the Ottomans to move away from me in preparation to stab them soon. I'm getting Stockholm. I'm posturing for Gothenburg. I am just making some real nice moves, trying to end Austria as soon as I can. Now is when we see the start of the troubles here in Africa. England. So at this point, Congo and the Dutch are working together. Now, I for most of this game was under the assumption that the Dutch were throwing to Congo, but apparently this was not a throw. This was them working together in earnest. But I don't like this play from the Dutch. I mean, I think it was a good play. It did prevent my solo for like about 3 years. Um, and it was great play for the Congo. The Congo this was a perfectly good idea from the Congo. This was exactly what the Congo needed to do right now.
Yeah,
Um,
they needed to find a friend next to you.
yes, like if I kept running away with this game, the Congo were going to get cut, and they were going to get outraced, and they weren't going to get a chance. This was the correct play from the Congo. I don't think this was the correct play from the Dutch. The Dutch still, I think, could have fought for South America, especially if they didn't actually disband this retreat into Guyana Current. They could defend Saint Martin. They could shift these units into the Caribbean and try to salvage their position with their unit in Sargasso Sea. They could have continued to fight Spain here. They could have fought, they could have potentially tried to rebuild their relationship with Spain and go for Portugal down here. They had play. They had play that was not this.
Yes,
But
I
we
think
see
that.
a failed convoy from Benin into Mandan here by the
Yes,
by these
by
two.
Congo and Dutch.
But we can see the underbuilding is starting to bite me in the ass here. So I'm starting to get a lot bigger than I should be over here in Africa. But if we look over in the
Luckily, you're
Caribbean,
gonna build 2 more. You're probably gonna build 2 more armies, so it doesn't matter.
oh, two. uh, but yeah,
I
Caribbean's looking
know,
good.
I know, I know, but still, it annoys me.
Yeah.
It annoys me that you didn't build armies.
Well, I don't know. My idea was I wanted to defend against the Dutch fleets that were fucking on my border and hold Cabo Verde, but that probably was not a good decision in hindsight, but, you know. But yeah, Caribbean. Caribbean's going pretty well here. I'm starting to push out into Avis Ridge. I'm posturing against France here. I believe I do go for France. Here. Let me actually. I don't remember if I go for France now or if it's in the near future. Yeah, I'm posturing on France. That's what I'm doing. Yes, I'm getting ready to fight France with Spain. I have been considering for a while, or I'm starting to consider with Spain going for a stab against France. They have this core in Porto. They have the units in the Mediterranean. They have the position in Italy to focus on it. I'm talking to Spain about, hey, we should maybe stab France here. Because my thought is, oh, once Austria is dead, I can fight for Nuremberg, I can fight for Venice, I can fight for Innsbruck, which I had mentioned I would be giving to France, these 2 dots. I was just going to go for Trieste and split in the Balkans. So I'm posturing on France. I'm posturing against France and thinking about stabbing them in the next year or 2. Looking at it, it's mostly just more of the same, kind of taking gains. Spring 1645, I'm just making, playing position, getting dots, kind of just continuing what I'm doing. So, looking at the retreats, I don't think anything crazy important happens here. No crazy important retreats. So going on to fall of this year, here is when I finally stab the Ottomans, and I also am. So this is interesting. This whole thing is interesting because I, at this point, vassalize the Austrian player and am stabbing France, which I'll get into soon. But looking at the Russian front, my relationship with Russia is still fantastic. They're helping me kill Sweden. I'm into Gothenburg at this point. I'm into Stockholm at this point. I'm walking into Bremen. I'm forcing Nuremberg. I am, stabbing the Ottomans. What I had specifically told Austria, because I am starting to set my eyes on something. I, at this point, am at 25 of 42 dots. I need an additional, 17 to win?
Yes.
I've consistently been going like around +7. If I can burst in the final year by 10, I could get a 1646 solo. And so right now, that's where I have my eyes set. I'm telling Austria, look, I think I might be able to win. If you work with me, I can let you live. I don't need your dots to hit the SCC, at least not Venice and Innsbruck. If you help me kill France, I'd love to let you live. And you let me kill the Ottomans, too. And so, I stab France for Alata. I stab England for Niani. Now, I would have liked to support England down into Menden here and deny this convoy, but England never responded to my press.
Yep. That.
So
England is dying everywhere.
They are,
and
I had pinged them a few times, and they just never responded. So I did what I thought was safest, which is force Niani.
I will say, I think Russia recovered this game in the mid-game very well.
Fantastically. Yes, Russia did a fantastic job recovering this shit. Russia mentioned to me, like, this is part of what I was able to do to keep Russia so on my side. Russia did not have a game without my help.
Yeah.
If I had fought Russia, Russia was dead early. Russia would be nowhere near as well, like, doing as well as they're doing now.
And then there's also Sweden migrating to the British Isles.
Yeah, Sweden migrating over to England.
They're
slowly losing everything over here.
I remember seeing that and thinking it was hilarious, but they're also
the way England ended was relatively funny. They had only Oxford, and their unit got disbanded by the Dutch and them retreating into Oxford. So they ended
Oh
this game with
no.
only Oxford as their only center, which wasn't a core.
Which wasn't a goal.
Yeah, and they didn't have any units on the board, so they couldn't
Oh my
actually ever build anything
god.
again.
Oh my god,
It
that's
is a
pretty
humorous way
funny.
for the game to end, but yeah. Looking otherwise, we have Caribbean. I'm still posturing against France. I go for some. I don't entirely remember what I was doing up here, but still,
This
uh,
looks like trying to read a self bounce in Guadalupe and then trying to
yeah,
support
I
Antigua
believe
and
that's what I was
Antarctica.
going for. I believe I was reading a self bounce in Guadalupe and trying to backfill Antigua. My goal was to just keep both of those cores covered so they couldn't build in there at least, and well, it worked out anyway.
It did.
You know, Spain is finishing off the Dutch. Spain is nothing on my border really. I'm so happy with this position with me in Spain. Spain is not challenging me in the Caribbean at all. My only
But
issue
in the
is this
same
Dutch
way, you
Congo
kind of
thing.
aren't. The same way, you kind of aren't challenging them either.
But you know, I don't need to challenge him. Shoshone is doing that for me. Aymara is doing that
Well, you
for
have a
me at
point
this
there.
point. You know,
You, I believe, went
like
0- this year.
they're getting fought by Tokugawa. They're getting
Alaska.
fought by they have stuff that's going on. But yeah, you just starting to go you just starting to have some trouble. But Spain is policed. I don't need to challenge Spain.
Yeah,
It's fine. I can let Spain be.
I see the Dutch forming a front line against you in Europe.
Yes, which is unfortunate, but the Dutch are just full committed against me, which is, as far as I can tell, essentially entirely out of wanting revenge for me stabbing them with the convoy into Brocapondo here. That and also them policing top boards, which is, makes sense. I
Yeah.
had a pretty big VSCC lead. My growth was not slowing down. It makes sense to police top boards. I just don't know if the Dutch policing me as hard as they did was a good decision.
It was certainly interesting.
But we finally see France dying here in Africa. And we actually
For
get
real?
to, if we look at if we look at retreats, the height of my power here in Africa. The largest my African colony ever got to was 8 dots, which is an insane place for your colony to be in 1645.
And you have 3 armies and a fleet.
I have 3 armies and a fleet, yes, in an 8 dot colony.
3 armies for 7 dots on the continent is really funny to me.
Yeah,
Because it's also the exact reason why well, yeah.
well, we'll see. But continuing on. Good disbands. Gothenburg pops. Kola pops. Fleet and Army Nuremberg pops. Fleet and Constantinople pops. Everything around me is forced disbanding, or just disbanding. Like a lot of disbands. Niani
Pops instead
disbands.
of going to Geba.
All these pops. I love to see all these disbands. They're fantastic.
Yep.
Looking at the
And you went
winter
+7
builds.
yet again.
+7, yet again, and I finally actually got to use that pocketed build from all the way back in 43. I ended
Yeah.
up leaving Warsaw open here and building in every other center. We see huge disbands all down the coast here in the Balkans region. Slavonia comes off, Banat comes off, Kon comes off, Strait of Otranto comes off, Skagerrak comes off, Sakov comes off, like huge disbands all over the place. I get 2 fleets down here, and I build a fleet and an army in Africa. Now, my idea
And Russia built
was
absolutely nothing anywhere near you.
well, I mean, fleet Arkhangelsk.
That doesn't count. You know that doesn't count.
Exactly. Russia is still loves me. They're not building anywhere near me. We're fine, sunshine and rainbows. So it is now 1646 after these builds, and here is where I start in earnest my solo attempt.
Yep.
So I begin by stabbing Russia.
Yeah, I remember.
I walk into
this.
Smolensk and Bryansk. I walk into Narva. I walk into Umea. I'm forward coring Gothenburg. I am just trying to hold what I have mostly and just kill the Ottomans, kill the Russians, just burst as hard as I can.
Yep.
And that is what's going on over here. Now, luckily, this goes pretty well. I get in the con. I'm getting Sarajevo next year. I'm potentially getting Salonika if I can, do well there. The Ottomans just don't care. They're just coring at this point. They're just spamming cores and hold orders at this point. They're just they're basically dead.
I feel like that should be considered an NMR by IMDIP rules, but
I mean, there are three center power who is dead anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am fighting Russia now. I stab them hard. I get a really good, a 3-dot stab with a potential take on Novgorod here, and a take on Abo.
Narva, Abo, Umea, and then potentially Novgorod.
I'm going for the solo run at this point. We're getting takes from, whoever here. Now is when shit starts to hit the fan in Africa, though. We see Kit Koe get convoyed into Niani.
Yep.
Which definitely hurts. But I do prevent any other advances on this front. Also, Fernand Po gets convoyed the nuts here, but I don't know what the Dutch are doing at this point. The Dutch are convoying Congolese armies onto their front lines. They're letting the Congo into basically their own cores. I don't know what this play is from the Congo or from the Dutch. This is very, very strange play. Yeah, you're policing me with this play, but you're policing me at the cost of everything you own in Africa. Because there is not a universe where you ever hold anything here in Africa long term.
Yeah, because as Congo's going to take Great Ardra, Congo's going to take Cormonton.
They're going to take Ouagadougou.
You just convoyed them into Niani, so...
Yeah, this is not something I would support. If I were in this position, if I were trying to police Poland, I would at least be taking Niani with Sierra Leone, not convoying an army in. And then just having Congo backfill into Sierra Leone so that you could force Cabo, because Congo has 2 fleets here. If you can convince 2 to support, take the support into Sierra Leone, you can still take Cabo while not giving up control entirely to Congo.
And Congo's going to have a lot of builds. They have...
Yes. Congo... hats off to Congo. Congo is playing fantastic. Congo is playing a great game. And Congo did play a great game. Congo ended this game second place VSCC. They played this fantastic, and they ended up second place VSCC when this game ended. Congo, you did great. You played a fantastic game. If this were not the single greatest Polish game to ever be played, you would have won. Plain and simple.
Because we got Congo's going to be plus a lot. They got not even counting the dots they're getting off of you. They've got Moravi. They got Mapondo. Great Ardra, and then coming off you, they got Niani, potentially Ouagadougou. That's plus 5 on its own.
Yeah, Congo are doing fantastic here, and when I say that this was literally the best Poland game to ever be played, we were counting it in my void. I had been going back to previous Polands that had been played. I, at this point, was, I think, 5 dots ahead of the next Poland by this year. I had I had outscaled every other Poland to be played by so much at this point. No Poland had ever grown anywhere near as fast as I had been growing in this game. This
I
was
believe the one that was
There was one that was close. It was the GBC Cup.
it was yes, it was Gansa Blumchin. It was Oliu's
That, yeah.
Poland.
Yes, that Poland. If we go back a year where I'm at 25, they were 2 dots behind me at 23 in that game. That
And
Poland
that's the closest.
yeah,
That is the
that
closest.
is the closest. And at this point, I am 5 ahead of the next. The next best Poland is at 27 by 1645. I am absolutely blitzing as Poland right now, and this is by no means a normal game.
Yeah, and you can and let's look at, because you're gonna try and go for the solo run this year.
Oh yes, I'm going for the solo attempt this year, and
so if you go
we'll
for the
see
solo
how.
attempt, we got
Looking at
coming
the
to you,
Caribbean,
we got Constantinople, we got Bakhchisarai.
it's gonna be Sarajevo's mine. I'm gonna get Trieste here. I'm getting Narva. I'm getting Umeå. I'm getting Abo. I'm getting Bakshi. I'm potentially getting Novgorod. I am getting, if we look, I'm losing one, and we'll see. It's a 50-50 on if I lose Cabo here. So 1, maybe 2 in Africa. Oh no, I'm losing WAG. So it's 2, maybe 3 in Africa. 2 to 3 in Africa. And if we look here in what's going on in Order Hell, down here in the Caribbean,
that is not fun to read.
Yeah, I'm forcing Guadalupe. I'm moving into Caribbean Sea, and I'm supporting myself into Guyana Current to backfill. So I'm gonna, after this year, which I'll actually go, because I think we're good discussing moves, I'll go to retreats so we can see it more clearly. I'm in Guadalupe here. I have a free take on Antigua. If you just look at the Spain stab, I have Primorbo's mine if I want it. Cartagena's mine if I want it. If Spain does not read that I'm stabbing him, Cayena's mine. Like, I have so much that I can go for on Spain here. And if we look at Russia, I've got a 50-50 on Novgorod. Abo is mine. I am taking Slavonia this year. If I can convince my Austrian vassal to support me into Salonika, it's also mine this year. I can then also stab Austria for Trieste. And we'll get into what I do here on this next turn very soon. But the big 3 things to watch out for in this phase are France, Africa, and Russia right now. Because those are the 3 big players right now in potentially making this solo run possible. Which, we're already talking about a solo run in 1646 as Poland, mind you. This is wild.
This is a fascinating game.
But, looking at the board here, keep an eye on France, keep an eye on Africa, keep an eye on Russia here as we go to moves.
Yep.
So, as I zoom in, I want to talk about what I decided to do. I went to France, and I said, hey, France, let's chat. Because I don't think, because at this point, and I think this is a reasonable assertion at this point, I don't think you're growing long term. I'm fighting you in the Caribbean, and if I fight you long term, I will win. I'm fighting you, you're getting fought by Inuit in North America, and long term, you're either going to stalemate or lose. Now, because they did not know that Inuit was stabbing Atha this turn, at least if they were going to follow through with it, which did definitely turn around in France's favor. But at this point, it was a reasonable assertion to say, hey, look, France, you're getting fought by Ajuran here, you're going to lose your, centers down here, you're on a negative trajectory at this point. And so it might be in your interest to end this game as soon as possible. I said this to them because I asked, can you support me into Innsbruck and support me into Trieste? While also allowing me to still keep Guadalupe and Antigua. Because I would be able to take Antigua anyway. And I would be able to hold Antigua anyway. Even if France and myself fought, both of those dots would remain mine. And so I asked to be allowed into Antigua. What I specifically asked them to do is have Leeward Seas support Antigua into Guyana Current if this failed, so that it would dislodge. France did not end up doing this. And we'll see where that got this game. But I walk into St. Martin successfully. I walk into Guadalupe successfully. I dot Spain for Cartagena. I dot Spain for Palermo. Spain does read my dot on Cayenne. Now looking at Africa, -2, just as I suspected. I'm not that surprised. You know, that's... I lose Niani and Wag. That's what I was expecting. But I lose the 50-50 on Cabo Verde.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I should have just used Senegal to tap Sewart and just called it there, because Sewart was the one to support and not the other way around. So I lose the 50-50 here. And also at the same time, we notice Portugal has now thrown a free dot to Congo. And so has Abyssinia and Azande.
Yep.
And when I go to the VSCC, or at least the scoreboard next year, you'll see why I'm hyping this up so much, because I also did end up losing this 50-50 here against Russia. The one funny thing I should mention, though, is this convoy into Trebizond.
I do remember.
I had talked to Russia, and I had been like, look, I can solo this year, but it's just a matter of dots. I had told them, look, I think I can end it this year, and if you want to convoy me into Trebizond, if you would rather me have Trebizond than have Bakshi, I'm fine with that. And, you know, because I still was on good terms with Russia here, because myself and Russia had played together for so long, we were chill. And so I decide, you know, hey, fucking throw me Trebizond. If you don't, I just care about dots. I don't want to fight you. I really like playing with you. I just need to go for this right now. Now, what I had initially planned to do was to backfill Khan, but I don't do this for really one main reason. My initial plan was to support Strait of Otranto into Salonika here, but Austria basically just said, no, I really don't want to do that. Which was funny, because Austria was unknowingly signing their own death warrant by making that assertion.
Yeah. I mean, technically they would have lived if Ottomans did not have the Khan retreat.
My main reasoning for this is I was relatively confident I could end the game here, and I wanted to also do something else funny. Not only would this be a tie for the... because in the same wave, there was actually a 2.3 game that also ended in a 1646 solo as England, I believe. But this would have been one of the first, because that game had not ended yet. So this would have been, at the time, the second ever 1646 solo, which there has been one before, but it was pulled off as Portugal. To pull that off as Poland is a whole different beast.
Yeah, I think there was another one somewhere, or no, sorry, there was, and this would also be the second. This would also be the second Poland solo. Ever.
Yeah, Poland solo. Period. The other thing, I wanted to also make this the first ever deathless game of Imperial diplomacy, which was what this whole Khan thing was. Cool. Because if Austria had taken the support into Salonika, and Qing actually lived, because I assumed Qing would not die because they still had 4 dots, but they died.
Yeah, Qing just straight up lost everything. Qing made bad moves.
They also lost a 50-50 for Turkestan, so yeah.
But if Shanxi is a weird move.
So if the Qing had won this, and the Austrians had taken the Salonika support, and assuming the game ended this year, this would have broken multiple records. It would have been the second ever 1646 solo, as Poland, no less. Not as Portugal like the other one was, but as Poland, And it also would have been the first ever deathless game of Imperial diplomacy, with 0 powers dying.
Yeah, Deathless Imp Dip is hilarious. The Deathless game is hilarious.
It almost happened. It got close. But if we go ahead and go to the next page, you'll notice, if you calculate the VSCC, if
You're
I
one dot
had
off.
one more dot, or Congo had one less dot, this would have ended in 1646.
Yep. If Abyssinia
It
or Portugal do
not
not
end.
toss the single dot, if instead of going for Cayenne, if you support yourself to Antigua, you get it.
If France did what I asked and supported themselves with the Guyana Current, if I had won the 50-50 for Cabo, if Spain did not sense the stab coming and did not cover Cayenne, if I also got into Novgorod instead of not getting into Novgorod with Bryansk. If any of that did not happen, this game would have ended here and now in 1646.
Yep. And then you do the classic thing of after you go on a solo run, you have a couple tough years after that.
One thing I do want to mention, though, is at least for the Ottomans, I gave them a final parting gift. And that was to have the honor of being the one to put the final nail in the Austrian coffin of being able to kill them by retreating Sarajevo into Khan.
Yep.
So the Ottomans, who had death warred Austria the whole game, got the sweet release. Got the ability to relieve Austria of their remaining center and kill them. So that was at least a nice thing that could happen. But
and because that happened, Ottomans have this free walk into Targ afterwards.
Yeah, but the Ottomans are very demoralized, so we'll see how this happens. But unfortunately,
I have noticed that the Ottoman player, they can be a doomer a little bit.
Yeah, they can be, and that's, I fucking looking at this position, do you blame them?
Okay, listen, you make a fair point.
Abyssinia is doing fantastic. Abyssinia is all the way into Tunis right now, and I mean, yeah, it's not a crazy bad thing.
With this strong of a Spain, Abyssinias don't normally hit Tunis by year 5.
This game is very, very, very strange. Because also you don't usually have a Poland at VSCC in 1646.
Well, that's the main thing, but there's a lot of smaller things on this board that are really strange. Like you have both a decent SAF and a decent Russia.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, despite your stab on them, Russia only went -2.
Yeah, Russia is still pulling it together. Russia is having a fantastic game still. Basically entirely because of me. Now, the sad part is...
I don't think Russia's having a fantastic game.
Well, I mean, before this year, they were having a pretty good one, yeah.
But
the downside is, my good friend Russia, who I've had a fantastic time pressing with all game, now has to die. Because I don't really have another option. If you remember what I was talking about in the early game about Poland's Europe borders, I am kind of at them in everywhere except Russia.
Yep.
If I want any more growth in Europe, it needs to be here.
Med, but that's so slow. Med fleets are so slow.
Well, you see, I do that. I do core split, and then I eventually get a fleet out, but...
That you do.
Looking at Africa,
I might have also considered coring Sarajevo to get 2 fleets out, but
yeah, it could have been an option. But looking at Africa, we're down to 5, which means we're actually balanced relatively with the amount of dots I have there and the amount of units I have there. Finally,
yeah, you have 4 armies and 2 fleets,
and now Caribbean is the one that's underbuilt.
Yep, but Caribbean, I remember, ends up staying relatively stable.
Yeah. So here's where I go from here. At this point, the board is turning on me. I was very much so banking on the game ending this turn. It almost did. I lost three 50-50s, one in Cayenne, one in, Cabo Verde, one in Novgorod, and
Cayenne
France
is
didn't do it.
not
Cayenne is, it's
right
not a
at
50-50,
50-50.
but it's a guess. It's a guess. It could have gone
As
either way.
Spain, I would always cover that, but that might be hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it came down to a lot of misfortune befalling me all at once, while people were throwing Congo centers to prevent specifically this.
Yeah. I think was there something in Western Europe that also got missed, I thought. Oh
So
no there wasn't.
taking a look at the rest of the board at this point, one person I want to put our eyes on is Ming. Ming is about to do some funny shit.
Ming, I saw the final board and I know the player. Ming does some very
Ming
funny
is
stuff
about
in
to
this
pull
game.
some funny shit here. So that is going to be relevant to me. Unbeknownst to me at this point. So Ming is our wonderful player, Sammy, who has been stoking the flames of a lot of the board coalitions for this game, much of which included me. A lot of the people throwing or
Sami can be a
stabbing to
touch of a
me.
tryhard.
Yeah,
He
a
can be
lot
a
of the
touch of a
people
tryhard.
throwing or stabbing to me, like throwing or stabbing against me, was an issue of you know, it was Ming stoking, like, fanning the flames, and
Yep.
I am not, I don't blame them. They played this correctly. That is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Ming is and yeah, this is Sami goes on to work his magic as he always does.
Yeah, but looking at it, we have Congo here. They are like 28% behind me in VSCC.
But 28 is not 30. So
Yep.
the game goes
Unfortunately.
on. The show must go on.
So, looking at builds, I throw down armies and a fleet in Europe, trying to kill Russia as fast as I can. I throw an army down and fleets down, and I'm just trying to survive. If I remember at this point, though, I still had two pocketed builds, because I still had quite a few left. But I need to
Pocketed builds?
rebuild.
I don't know if I'd say pocketed build.
Well,
Pocketed build. Yeah,
wave.
sorry.
I waved them, yeah.
I'm
I had two
sorry. I
more.
thought you meant pocketed dots. My fault.
Oh, no. But you're good.
Pocketed builds. Yes, you have a couple extra builds in
So
hand because
even if I go
you
really
went plus
badly
10
here,
and you only built 8.
even if stuff goes really badly here, I'm likely not disbanding. So that's the good thing. But at this point, I don't think there's much I can do press-wise. Because the entire board needs to get it out of their system at this point. I am really far ahead of the board, so I just start tacticsing and I just try to lose as little as possible. I posture on Russia, get good positioning, prepare to force out Sakov if I can. I'm taking frontline positions against them. I am starting to move stuff in toward the Ottomans, who are just sitting here holding in place. And
Yep.
funny shit happens at Trebizond. I see it gets dislodged by the Safavids and gets a retreat into Sayutic. You will not believe where this unit ends up.
I know where this unit ends up.
Yes.
It's
It's very funny. But yeah,
it is
at this
very
point,
funny.
the whole board
It
is
is
attacking me.
unfathomable. It is unfathomable where that unit ends up at the end.
Yeah, the whole board is attacking me right now. And that is not surprising. I need to be calmed down after my solo run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. That, like, I have the VSCC lead where I can deal with this. So
Yep.
I just kind of enter orders that help me live. France is doing some stuff with Spain. So I should mention, this very soon, I start pressing France and Spain very hard. And France and Spain are both good players. France and Spain are also very close with each other. So
Which is
this is
hilarious
actually,
given what Spain is
yeah,
doing, but
just despite Spain being in Nantes, and despite this fleet in Barcelona, Spain and France managed to repair this.
yeah, that's so funny. It's so
This
funny
is
having watched this game.
this is where shit turns around for me, in a negative direction. But I do bring it back. I just need to take a few years to build a foundation and just play slow.
Cool
Ming
off, pretty
moves
much.
into Yarkand, Uighurostan, Sapanga, and Turfan, and moves Chengdu into Xinjiang or Xinjiang.
Which,
We have
yeah, those
the
are.
great Ming migration toward the west.
Yep, I feel like Ming was gonna come personally stop you from soloing if he had more time.
Yeah, Ming starts migrating to the west like a flock of birds.
Yep.
But
I
yeah,
mean, it
there's not
works
too
out for
much.
him, so you
It
can't quite
does.
blame him.
But there's not too much to talk about this phase. It's just me recovering from me trying to not lose and just trying to hold after the entire
Correct.
board decides to try to kill me. So if we go next, retreats. I retreat Trebizond into Sionic here. Nuremberg gets taken and it retreats at the Saxony. I get actually both Siewart and Geba are forced to disband here, unfortunately. So I lose
Because
2 units in
the
Africa.
all the SAO
Yeah.
slots are taken up.
So unfortunately, I'm starting. Africa's starting to look a little dire. You know,
But Antigua gets blown up. Antigua
gets blown up. That's good. And Guyana Current. But at this point is when Ming starts advocating for me. Ming goes, okay, Poland has been dealt with. Poland's not going to burst. The person who has burst potential now is Congo. Because as you can see, Portugal at this point is throwing to Congo. They just convoyed them into Rio this turn. They just walked into Sao. The Dutch are essentially throwing to them at this point. Yeah, I mean, Cormetan's theirs, Ouagadougou's theirs. Like, they could take Niani if they want to. Like, there's a lot of things that the Congo could take. Abyssinia is taking Azande back, but
not. Abyssinia is Congo actually gave them Azande back.
But if this continues to throw, like if Portugal continues to throw to Congo, Congo's gonna either win or solo. Because if the board is policing me as hard as it is, I'm not rebuilt yet. I have not rebuilt properly yet. I could still lose.
I will say one thing noticeably. Abyssinia is killing Ajuran's home this turn, and after this turn, those armies won't have very many places to go.
Also, the Congo armies that were helping with that same thing. I had mentioned to Abyssinia about a year before, saying, "Hey, as soon as Ajuran is dead, Congo will stab you." And well, we'll see what happens here in like a year. When Ajuran is finally dead.
I remember what happened, and it's really weird. I don't know how they got out of this. I don't know how they got out of this one.
Yeah, continuing now. Let's see what else happens. So, retreats happen, moves. Oh, what's going on with my screen? Oh no. Oh, there it is. There's the map. Here's the next set of moves. So with Ming's help, I'm starting to recover. People are like, okay, you're not an immediate just end the game threat at this point. So I convinced the Safavids to support me into Durban. Meaning I now have Durban. And so this Trebizond is actually neutral. I definitely lose Trebizond, but I'm in Durban now. Yay! And I finally get Novgorod. I don't lose anything to Russia other than Bakhchi, which was expected. That's fine. Actually, no, I do lose Stockholm here, but that's okay, honestly. The Dutch back off of me.
Popping out. You're fine.
The Dutch back off of me here in Skagerrak, which is massive. And also, yeah, we see the Spanish and the French repairing their relationship by Spain giving the
not back by convoying
back and convoying their unit into Hent.
and then France moving their Med fleet out to Cadiz and eventually probably out into the Atlantic.
Yes. Very strange happenings. But
Hey, I mean, if it works, I guess.
this is where a shift in the way I'm playing this game occurs. I am now talking directly with Spain, and talking directly with Ming, and talking directly with France, and I am trying to prolong this game as long as possible. The threat of the Spain, the Congo solo is real, assuming a throw would happen. And we actually got a very interesting thing here, which is around the adjudication happening. The bot was kind of shitting itself, and so it adjudicated an order set of Portugal's, where Portugal had convoyed the Congo into Salvador here, and also into Guandara, this area here, meaning the Congo had an additional like +4 or something. So because of this bot glitch in that alternate universe that happened, we would have seen a Congo. They would have essentially eclipsed even me in VSCC had Portugal continued to throw to them.
Yeah, they would have been to 30
It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. But Congo was a solo threat here, or at least a duo threat. I don't know if a solo, but they were a threat to getting up to VSCC and fast.
I'm gonna be fully honest with you. I don't think Congo was ever a solo threat, but definitely they were.
They were a contender.
At this
for
point,
sure.
should have been a victor. At this point, should have been a victor at least.
Yeah, probably. Like they have been. I don't know how they convinced the Dutch to do this, but they somehow did, and it is insane. They finally get into Tegene now, meaning I'm pushed out into only Olata and these 4, meaning I'm really starting to feel it here in Africa. I'm shrinking. But I'm
Spain supported you to Idjil, so technically you're neutral in the region.
Yes, Spain did support me to Idjil. So Spain and myself are now working together very closely. I essentially told them I would trade Idjil for Palermo, but Idjil, we could only actually deal with this Portuguese army here, who we assumed was throwing to Congo at the time, if I moved in and popped it. Because we were going for a forces ban. So I was essentially going to give them
it back.
Idjil back. Yeah, next year I'm like, okay, I owe Spain Idjil. So while I'm neutral now, no, this is intended to be a trade. Otherwise, I'm killing Russia. I finally dislodged Congo out of Con, but they retreat to Targo here. Spoilers. But I can deal with it. I can chase.
Funny retreat.
I can chase it out. What did concern me is this move from Tripoli to Salonika, which signals that at some point it looked like Abyssinia and Spain had a deal to convoy the Tripoli unit into Salonika here, which would have been very
Spain
bad.
betrayed them. Spain betrayed them because they
by
not only
tapping
did they not
Levantine.
they bounced Levantine.
This is the correct play. As Spain, you never let this happen.
No, I agree with you. I agree that this is the right play from Spain, but yeah, that Spain had betrayed them was that's tough.
It's concerning, but yeah, not much here. I mean, it's very similar. So the way I'm shifting my playstyle is
already this year. So
in
fifth build
in the Caribbean, I am pushing my units out toward Leeward Sea and Guiana Current, so I can shove units into SAO. That's what's going on up here with France and Guadeloupe. I was saying, hey, I'll give you Saint Martin or / Guadeloupe for Antigua. Back, we're essentially trading it again, and I said, okay, well, I can still give you Guad, or I can still give you Saint Martin, but it's better for tempo if I give you Guad now, and then we trade back for Saint Martin next turn, so that I can push 2 units into SAO to prevent this whole Congo throw bullshit. But yeah, going on to Falls 47 retreats. The unit here in Guyana Current, this Portuguese fleet gets forced into SAO3. Russia start pushing back. I start pulling back. We vibe.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to gain ground. I should have Stockholm back now. I'm in Durban, which is funny. I'm stabilizing. I only went -2 this turn, which
-3.
minus no -2 40. Oh wait, no, retreats. I do lose Targo to retreats. Yeah, but
Which means you're only
because
-1, but you had stuff blow up.
I had a build because I had 2 blow up in Africa, so I still have a build.
And you also
despite
had
going
2
-3.
pocketed builds.
Yeah, I had two pocketed, and I had 2 blow up. So despite being -3, I have a build here. So looking at what I do with that, I
Army
throw an
Kiev.
army down in Kiev, which to continue to contest the threat here. We see Ming's migration has landed in Turkestan already, and we are now in 1648. Continuing onward.
Ayutthaya had a disband, and they blew up Army Kunming.
Yeah.
That's
Army
notable
Kunming.
to mention for later.
This border is looking insane. Ming has a core in Pengpa and Chengdu, and Ayutthaya is completely demilitarizing all of this.
Which means that had the game gone on longer, well, we'll get there. We'll talk about that at the end.
Looking at all this, I managed to get a convoy from Berlin into Stockholm here. I lose Umeå in the process, which ends up actually disbanding again. But I had 4 Baltic fleets anyway. I could live with 1 less.
Correct. There was also let's look at your moves first, and then we'll look around the board.
Yeah, I get Targo back. It is forced to go to like Alfred or Banat, but I believe it just disbands here, and they just live with Smyrna.
Because it got supported into Ochakiv.
Oh wait, no, yeah, it got supported into Ochakiv, but then after this, I kill it in Ochakiv.
Yes. Here, Spain goes full in on
Spain.
Abyssinia.
Yeah, they're taking Tunis. They try to get into Chamba here. Cairo's moving into Levantine Sea. It looks like Spain and Abyssinia are thinking of going to war. I try to open up Igil for Spain here, but they get bounced out of SAO4, and we don't end up getting in. I'm forcing SAO2 with Spanish help. You know, me and Spain are actively working together to stop the whole Congo thing. I walk back into St. Martin. I don't know.
It does look like Portugal has stopped throwing. They're taking back Sao Sebastião.
They completely 180. They're not throwing anymore.
They blew up Sao Paulo, etc.
Yeah, so the solo threat is a lot less from Congo. They're definitely a contender, but it is in the interest of basically everyone above, like, Ming for the game to last long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I play along with the board. I go, okay, look, I'll help you guys police Congo. My growth is going to be slow and steady off of Russia anyway. Let's just play slow. We're good. So, you know, I'm chill. What we do see is actually of importance here. Finally, for the first time since 1642, we do not see a bounce in Caspian Sea.
Yep, I was looking at the exact same thing.
Bukhara dots Tehran, and Astrakhan moves to Kalmykia here, which is going to be important.
Yep, that's
for the fate of Durban.
Big. That's gonna be big. I remember what happens here. It's just as funny as everyone thinks.
But yeah, I'm still continuing to kind of decline here over in Congo's territory. Me and Congo are still trying to fight and slow them down.
Caribbean's looking good, though.
Caribbean is fantastic. The Caribbean is doing great. I've got another core down in Palermo at this point. Spain is moving away from me again and toward France, setting up for a stab. I am, taking what I arranged with France, because Guadeloupe was arranged. France is like, okay, look, I know that if you're only going to work with me... Oh, no, Guadeloupe was arranged because I gave them Innsbruck in exchange.
Yes.
Yeah, we traded Innsbruck to simplify our border and DMZ it more, because I didn't want all these armies on our border. So, as a part of a DMZ deal, I gave them Innsbruck in exchange for Guad, which is what this is.
Oh my God,
I'm starting to push units out into SAO. Yep, Abyssinia was doing great.
Looks like Congo stabs this. Congo is
Yeah, Congo stabbed right here. Yeah, moved into Mongo, moved into Burundi, moved into Logone, moved into Baya, moved into Ngala. Full stab. Full Congo stab. Yep.
This is a big moment.
Yeah, Congo is really starting to push it, saying, "Hey, look, I have weight. I'm gonna throw my weight around. I'm big. I'm a big power too. It's not just Poland anymore."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I stabilized, I think, relatively well. I'm really starting to pull it back. Congo meme retreats into Warsaw. That will become a common theme. I lose another force disband. My fleet gets force disbanded here in Jacobport, and Jacobport is lost to the Congo here, meaning I am left with 3 in Africa, with Igil likely going to Spain.
Yep.
So Africa
There's
is really
also
looking dire.
Ualara occupied by Congo, but that's manageable. Oh, you notice Dejene retreats back into Timbuktu.
Timbuktu, yes. Dejene retreats back into Timbuktu because this is where an important shift happens. Because at this point, I finally flip the Dutch.
This was a big thing. This took fucking forever.
Yeah, since basically 1643, the Dutch had been fighting me, because policing me and revenge for the Parmerbo stab early, for a convoyed Spain from Caracas to Brocapondo.
Yep.
But with the French stab against them here in Europe, I finally turned the Dutch. And so, here's where I also make another important play, which is going to come into detail a lot, which is going to be very important for the next year, 1649, which is, spoiler alert, the last year of the game. I make a chat with Congo and Spain where we talk about going for a trio. At this point, I'm like, okay, look, this board's really good at policing win threats. We need to, if we go for a trio, be very discreet about it and only plan with each other. We can't let anyone know about this. We have to be very discreet. We have to act like we're fighting to make it look like we're not going for a trio. We need to be very careful here. What this gives me is control. This gives me justification to tell Congo and Spain what to do in their move phases. I use this to my advantage. Now, if I didn't see the opportunity I do next year, so what? I would have just taken it. I would have just taken a trio. That would have been fine. But you'll see, next year, I will see an opportunity that is very important. But on to the fall moves. There's a couple more important things.
I want to make a note of the continued Ming push west.
Yes, Ming is now in Kazan and Beule and Turkestan. The Ming continue to migrate westward. If we also look in that area,
they did not dot Verk, which is very funny.
Yeah, they don't dot Verk yet. But we see another funny thing, which is Derbend. It's convoyed to Tehran.
Yep. And Safavid's camp. And Russia takes the dot off you, not Safavid's.
Actually, no. Ignore my thing about the trio. That happens after this moves phase. After this moves phase. And the Dutch also flip right after this moves phase. I did pull the gun on that a little early. But yeah, Spain minorly stabs me here with Salonika. And also...
that's just a dotting. That's not a stab.
It's a dot. You. They dot me in Salonika. The thing that did concern me is that they did not support me to a lot of like we had asked. They took a Congo support from Tafel into Idjil.
That's tough.
Which I spun to my advantage. Because I took this and used it and ran with it. I went to Ming, I went to France, I went to everyone else on the board, and I said, look, Spain is fighting me, Congo is fighting me, I think they're allied, they might be trying to cut me. Which is a crazy thing to say when I am tied for first in VSCC, which is where I am after this fall moose phase.
That is wild to say. especially given that you're still going to be positive, like very, very positive.
So I did some great fear mongering here, saying, "Look, I think Spain is fighting me. I think Spain is
No,
trying to
you did
cut me
go
with
-2.
Congo."
You did go -2 again
Yeah, I
because
told
Africa just went
Spain.
so poorly.
I once again told Spain, did the thing, isolate your allies, told Spain to go tell everyone that I'm gonna fight Poland and not worry about the board state or all that, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
so, you know, I continue the trend of isolate your allies
Mm-hmm.
in both Congo and Spain because I am now the one who's coordinating and telling them what to do
Mm-hmm.
after this point, and that's very important. So, looking at everything that happens here, Congo get forced out of South America basically entirely. The only thing they keep after this is Mauer. They're holding everything over here. They're fighting Abyssinia in earnest now. They're taking all of the Dutch dots, other than Dijene, which I just helped the Dutch into, and helped.
Also not Niani because Dutch covered Niani from the
Niani
retreat.
got covered, yeah.
And Timbuktu is Dutch also.
But I'm starting to work with the Dutch here. I'm piecing out France on my border. We're making a good border. I cover Split so I can get a fleet down here.
That's awesome. We love the split fleet.
Ottomans finally fully die. They die to Smyrna and Ojakiv.
Yep.
And yeah, I get a pretty good year here. I am still neutral with this fleet that initially got convoyed into Trebizond, which is now in Tehran for some reason.
Yeah, you're still neutral because you, I think, had 2 West Africa units blown up.
Yes, I
Or
had
was
2
it-
units in West Africa blow up, Jacob Port and Gaba, I believe. So I'm
Yes.
still I still go neutral. I never had to disband a unit in this game other than by force.
Other than by force.
Oh wait, no, Idjil disbanded because it didn't retreat to Regibot. It just decided to pop. That's what happened.
Yep. And then...
Oh wait, no, that's what gave me the build and split. So never mind. Yeah. So Idjil disbands. I retreat to Kiev. Ottomans die. We blow up. Me and the Safavids blow up this Russian army in Tehran, now making Tehran Polish.
I think it could have retreated to Kurdistan, but it just didn't.
I think it could have, but it just decided not to. Yeah.
The great
And
Ming
Ming
westward
has migrated into Kazan.
I think I viewed this. I think I cracked a joke in your void that Ming was going to support Hold Russia now.
Yeah, I mean they probably would have done it had I gotten too much of a solo threat like early at this point. If I had shown that I would have been too strong this early, they probably would have started doing that genuinely.
But now Ming just has this ridiculously powerful stab on Russia.
Oh, absolutely. Verk, Kiva, Ush, and Bukhara, Karakurb, Orgut. They have like a 6-dot stab.
Yep.
But this is where we're gonna leave 1648. Me and Congo are exactly tied in VSCC.
Yep. And Spain is not far behind, y'all.
Trailing behind, but they have a lot of growth potential with this stab on France they're about to execute.
And Abyssinia still gets a build because they had one pocketed.
Yes.
From last year. Also, Abyssinia gets convoyed into Cochin.
Yes, with a support from the Safavids, they are now in Cochin with an army.
But they did it all. But they did it all on their own, mostly.
Yeah. So very funny stuff is happening here. But going on to our builds,
Abyssinia and Safavids, like despite Abyssinia like dotting Safavids everywhere, are just kind of okay allies.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, right. Yeah. Looking at builds, though, we got the fleet and split coming down. I love that I got a fleet down in split. That is an awesome place to put a fleet, is Poland.
Oh, yeah. We love the med fleet, honestly. We
love the Polish med fleet. The Polish med fleet is great. We see 4 builds from Congo again. But this is where I really start hitting that trio play hard. I'm playing with Spain and Congo, despite telling Spain and Congo to make it look like we're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them to not press anyone else on the board like Ming. I tell them to, if they do press flowers like that, to act hostile. I tell them to self-isolate, so that I can play up their fear of them soloing, and then I can use that to give them intel, and also get builds, meaning I could give them dots. Both powers.
Yep.
So, they accept this deal. Meaning, I basically have the keys to the kingdom here. I can control what Spain and Congo do, and I can use that to my own gain.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at moves, I walk into Adriatic Sea. I'm setting up for a stab against the French. They move into Nuremberg. This was a mistake from France. They did not mean to do this. This is something I used to my advantage.
This has happened a couple times with France also in this game where they just misorder stuff.
Yep. Naples walks into
misorder
Rome.
Misorder stuff conveniently on your border, no less.
Oh yeah. This game, I'm not gonna act like this game was all skill. There was a good amount of luck to this game.
Yep.
But as you can see,
any win is kind of lucky, right? Like you gotta win.
Yeah.
Like the politics of your region just don't always go in your favor sometimes, and there's not much you can do about it.
True, very true. But
I think as a regional, you have it worse because the politics of your region
Oh,
are
for
sometimes
sure.
dictated
Yes.
by colonials.
Yes, sometimes regionals just suffer from regional syndrome TM, where they do really well and then they get outscaled and lose because of something completely out of their control.
Yep, and I think
That is what happens to Congo this game, basically. Mostly out of their control.
Also kind of what happened to Ming.
And I'd say to an extent Ayutthaya, but they kind of stagnated really hard in the late game.
Ayutthaya did stagnate quite hard. I will say that Ming is probably a big example of this because they were bursting really hard towards the end and just lost because Congo and Spain were better.
Well,
I'm not. I know what happens here.
I know what the thumbnail of this image is going to be. It's going to be the pull and sweep image. So it's like it's going to be obvious.
We love the Jeb Bush meme. The Jeb Bush meme is just the best.
So whatever. Regardless, I start moving into I act like I'm fighting Spain. I walk like I'm going to dot Cayenne. Spain acts like they're trying to force Caracas here. Spain moves into Senegal Estuary as if they're going to attack me. Great stuff.
Yep.
Spain is acting like they're fighting me.
Spain
now it
is
breaks
a great
down a
actor.
little bit over here with Naples to Rome East Coast. So some people don't buy it entirely with Naples to Rome East Coast, but Bogota to Cartagena and them forcing Mona Passage, which looks like it touches Guadalupe, and them walking into Senegal Estuary. Like, I had a lot of other evidence saying, hey, Spain is fighting me.
There's also the very funny I want to note Cadiz to Strait of Gibraltar because that that now has a free walk into Tangier.
Yeah, Spain has been chasing this unit from Barcelona down through Valencia into Cadiz and now into Tangier.
Because I think that unit was supposed to move out of the Atlantic at this point.
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, something like that.
If I'm France and that unit ever retreats, I'm just blowing it up at this point.
Yeah, it's true. Looking elsewhere, though, I managed to convoy Berlin into Umeå, getting another army out in Scandinavia.
Which is very good, because at the same time you also force Jämtland.
Yes, I force Jämtland. And I now very likely have Christiania the next year. I believe I have it assured next year, no less. So
I think you have it assured right now, actually.
If Pharaoh Bank to... Oh, no, it would have been. Yeah, it would have been assured, I think, yeah.
You had four. You had four on it.
Well,
But
if I
guess
could convince Iceland,
right.
if
This is
Iceland's
where
tapped Faroe Bank, yes, but
this is where the funny Sweden retreat happens.
yes, in this retreats phase is where our funny Sweden retreat into Oxford, with the Dutch being retreated out of London into Oxford.
Both of those happen, and Sweden is
Going to the retreats map.
Schrodinger's power. Schrodinger's power. They're
Yep,
not dead
we
or
have
alive.
a Sweden with 1 dot and 0 units.
But they can't build because it's not a core.
However, on this turn as well, if we look over in the east, we notice somebody has stabbed someone else this turn. Oh,
Ming stabs Russia.
Ming is now in Verk, Ming is now in Kiva, Ming is now in Ustjin, Ming now has an assured Bukhara, and an assured Orgu, and an assured Karakoram.
Yep.
So,
because Tokugawa also moved everything away from Ming.
Yeah, Ming is very scary at this point, because they also got Von King this turn, and they're getting one more here in Asia as well. They're going plus like 8 this year.
Speaking from experience, I love Ming Toku alliances. They're so fun. Because Toku gets to rule the Pacific, and Ming gets to do goofy shit like this.
Yeah, I know they work well firsthand as well, because you and Toku pulled that on me, Russia, at Carnage.
At Carnage. Yeah, Carnage was a lot of waves ago. Carnage, I think, had the 1.5 map.
Yes, it was the 1.5 map, I believe.
It was still good though.
I don't remember. It was somewhere between 1.4 and 1.6. I don't remember if Zukar was there, because I know Zukar only existed for 1.5.
I can go look. I'm still in that server. I can go look really quick. This was Zukar. This was 1.5.
Okay, so it was 1.5, yeah.
Zukar was great. Abyssinia
that
was so nice when they had Zukar.
That was Carnage. Carnage was fun, but back on track to this game. Yeah, my position, I'm really starting to see some dots now. I'm setting up with a Spain stab on Venice. What specifically we were going to do is I was going to have Spain support me into Venice, Trieste backfills into Innsbruck, Slavonia walks into Trieste, and when France goes to correct their mistake of Nuremberg and walks out, I walk in with Saxony, which is a 3-dot stab on France.
Yeah.
Well, I also stab them for Puerto Rico for 4, and Spain stabs for Cap Haitian and Bahamas for 6.
Yep. And Spain also takes Catawba from Dutch and Cherokee from Dutch. We also see the front with Ute has completely collapsed.
Finally, yes. At this point, I believe Ute just started throwing to Spain, so...
Because you see France really also recovered their North America front.
Oh, for sure. With the Inuit alliance against Atha, France managed to ally Inuit again. France did great in North America. This is why I mentioned it was kind of funny when France was saying, "Oh, I told France they should end this game as soon as possible," because they're now about like 16 dots, or about I think 13 dots higher than they were when I told them that.
Yeah, which is insane. Which is an insane.
I don't know. That might be completely wrong, that number, but still, they're doing a lot better than they were before.
Yep.
Which is not something they were expecting, and not something I was expecting at all.
But hey, they did it.
Yeah, they did great. But looking into it now,
we go to retreats.
Yeah,
I'm looking at retreats, but I think you can keep talking about moves if you want. But
I think I'm actually about good. Yeah, no. So Yampland, I had told Russia. So one thing I should mention with Ming is Ming had talked to me early in about 1647, and a specific phrase they said is, when I stab Russia, Russia is likely to throw to you.
What a psychic.
Yeah, so I had asked for Russia to throw to me. And I asked, so if you're going to throw to me, can you please disband Yampland?
They disbanded Yampland.
So, looking at our final set of moves,
Yep.
let's go over what I had mentioned to everyone. So, I had drawn up a map saying, hey, Congo, I'm gonna get you St. Helena back. Hey, Congo, I'm gonna convoy Cape Coe into Maristad so you can push south and start taking Maristad. Hey, Spain, I'm gonna convoy Cayenne into Belém here. I'm gonna give you Caracas. I'm not gonna take Salonika. I'm gonna, do this France stab. I had told Spain that I was gonna help them. I was gonna let them hold Salonika. I was gonna let them dot me in Caracas for free in exchange for putting me into Jacobport and, stabbing France here. And then obviously I stabbed Spain. Now,
You
Portugal,
took
I had
Salonika, you
mentioned.
walked into Naples.
Yes, I walked Naples, I forced Salonika, I
You
walk
took
into Innsbruck, I
Cayenne. You
walk into
did not help them
Nuremberg.
into Belém. You didn't give them Caracas.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing is Russia throws. They did what I asked. I keep Bakshi, I get Christiania, which would have been a shirt anyway. I get Trondheim, and they walk out of Arkhangelsk, which I only asked for Trondheim and Arkhangelsk and not to be dislodged from Bakshi, which they allowed.
And then Tehran walks to Isfahan.
Yep, Tehran walks to Isfahan.
And Tehran doesn't get retaken.
And Tehran
because
does not get retaken because I told Bukhara, I
doesn't
told
have a
the
retreat.
Safavids, I talked to Safavids about tactics. I told them to support Bukhara into Herat, which they did. And that meant that Bukhara did not get a retreat into Tehran. And they also told me to self-bounce, or it's like to bounce Caspian Sea and Tabriz was what this unit was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But funny walk into the Safavid capital of Isfahan.
At the very end, yep. And Ming stabs for Orgu, Karakoram, Uzgen, Bukhara.
Yep, Ming
Khiva,
stabs
and
for 6.
And
Except
Ming gets dotted.
Ming...
It's dotted in Yarkand,
Yes,
which means that Ming
I did.
completely bisected by Russia.
I fed Russia the dot into Yarkand as a thanks for doing the stab. I also helped them with Safavid tactics, which did end up making them go neutral on Trebizond.
Yep, Trebizond, gain Trebizond, lose
but
Tiflis.
they did get Yarkand, so this was only a -2 or a -2 throw for the Russians. It was Trondheim and Arkhangelsk and Bakshi, but in exchange they got Yarkand with my intel. So
okay,
otherwise,
but a throw is a throw. In my opinion, a throw is a throw, but
I see some tactics to him when it's, hey, if you do this, then you'll end the game at a higher VSCC than if you did not. I don't just say, hey, you should throw to me so I win. I should say, hey, you should throw to me because you'll end at a higher VSCC. Yeah. And, Russia and myself had worked together the whole game. Russia fucking basically owed me the fact that they had a good game at all, at any point, to me helping them.
Despite Spain, despite you stabbing Spain everywhere, there is still +5.
Oh, yeah. No, Spain had insane growth. If I didn't stab Spain, they were like +10. Like, it was unbelievable how fast Spain was going to grow here.
Yeah, you got Salonika, Naples. They did not get Caracas. They did not keep Belém. They lost Cayenne. I think that's legit. I think that's a 5-dot stab from you.
Yeah, it was massive.
Or it's a 5-dot swing.
It was kind of ridiculous, yeah. A lot of stuff happened here. But the stab ended up working. And there are a couple of things I should note. So...
You soloed! By 1 dot.
Yeah, I soloed exactly I had exactly 30% on Congo after this stab. But if we look around at some of the tactics, France was considering stabbing Congo here, or Abyssinia here, and dotting Baidoa and Marique. But that did not end up happening, barely. And because of that, Congo loses Zanzibar and loses the game.
Congo.
If France did not stab Congo here, this game would have ended. It wouldn't have ended. It would still be going.
If France had not supported Abyssinia to Zanzibar, that's tough.
I mean, I was feeling that in 1646, to be fair. when I lost
Oh.
a guess and two 50-50s, and France did not leave Antigua.
Yeah. Also, Ajuran dots Beira on the
Yeah,
final turn. Ajuran lives on 4 dots, or is it 4? No, it was 5. That's incredible.
yeah. Sakalava, Bara, Fort Dauphine, which is now a core, Beira, and Seychelles.
That's incredible, and they still have
Abyssinia
Seychelles.
actually supports an army from Vanad into Ceylon here this turn, which is a very funny move.
Oh yeah, Abyssinia gets supported into a third Indian dot if you count Maldives.
Yeah,
They probably could have played for Madurai after that. Which
most
that's just an
likely, yeah.
awesome that's an awesome Abyssinia game in my opinion. Um Abyssinia got Mecca off of Safavids, they kept Darfur. A lot of interesting stuff on the board that kind of goes down the wayside when you realize, oh shit, Poland went plus 13.
Yeah, and Congo went +2, and the final scoreboard ends with me at 50 of 42, and Congo at 30 of 32, where I soloed exactly.
Yep.
Meaning me dotting Isfahan and doing that in the Safavid area genuinely
Is the reason
was
you
the
won.
difference maker.
It was
So
the difference maker.
every dot counts, even the Polish Isfahan.
Even god damn it, even the Polish Isfahan. You also doubled in West Africa on the final year.
Yeah, I went from just St. Louis and back to having Jacob Fort and Dejene back, meaning I ended this game at a 5 center West Africa.
And
Or four center West Africa. And my
an 8
Caribbean is
Caribbean.
massive. Yeah,
8
Caracas,
Caribbean, 9 if you
Palermo,
count
Cayenne.
Marstad.
Yeah, 9 if I count Mauer. It's amazing. I have an amazing Caribbean position at this point. Yeah, my Europe looks a little ridiculous.
But that's a winning Europe.
Oh yeah, and this was the Polish solo. It probably should have happened 3 years prior to this, but it still happened.
You mentioned Poland having a miserable time finding 36 dots in Europe. But if you don't, the 2 in Tehran and Isfahan, the 4 in the 4 in West Africa, and then the 9 in the Caribbean area, that's a 35 dot Europe.
Yeah, I mean, I got a big Europe. I don't know if I don't know. It is
Naples
hard,
is not
but
holdable. To be noted, there's a lot of dots in this Europe that are not holdable. Like Naples
oh
is not
no,
holdable.
Naples is not holdable. Nuremberg and Innsbruck probably fall. Bakshi would probably fall. If not for Russia, like Ark would fall. But yeah, like this is not holdable. This is a burst again. But it's a burst to victory.
And you would have built a second fleet in Split, which would have been awesome.
Oh, absolutely. I had 13 builds. I would have built in every core.
Yep, you would have
Including
built
Parmerbo.
everywhere.
I probably army Parmerbo like a savage.
Yeah, you would have had 3 Caribbean builds, which is very savage. 3
Big
Caribbean, 1
Caribbean. Big Caribbean here at the end of this game.
big Caribbean.
But
no,
yeah,
you played
it
awesome.
was a big game. Spain and France were both really fun to press with this game. They both had really nice press, even if both of them were in Europe and were like 8 hours ahead of me, which made it so that we could only press at very specific times. But you know, it's fine. Poland, like press with France and press with Spain was very nice. Congo I didn't press with much because most of the game we were just fighting each other. But Congo,
shout out to Ming. Shout out to Ming for this game.
Ming, this was a fucking wild Ming game. This was crazy. This was a crazy Ming game.
What do you think
Russia?
is crazier, this Ming game or my Ming game, Ikthe?
Oh, I don't know. Your Ming game is an enigma. Which one was it?
It was 2.2 Nemesia, where the Ming goes +1 in year 1.
And you ended on 19, if I remember correctly?
Yes, I ended at 19.
Okay, but wrapping this up, I want to chat. So Russia, you were also depressed with. Yeah, you were great. It's a shame I kind of had to fight you at the end. It was kind of my only option, but you were great to press with. You, for most of the game, we were an awesome ally. France, Spain, you guys as well. You were awesome to press with. I had a great time. Congo, you should have won this. If this were not a generational Poland game, you would have won this. You most likely should have. And I know the feeling. Trust me. It hurts, but you just got to keep running them. This was still a great Congo from you. You ended it like 90% in the SEC. Still a great game. Spain as well. Spain played great. Abyssinia did surprisingly well. You very rarely see Abyssinia and Congo do well together, and seeing it
I
happen is very interesting.
I think this being a 22 dot Abyssinia is insane. Like
Absolutely.
like they looked this like the Congo position makes this Abyssinia position look so dead, but it's just so not. Their
I think
Arabia
they
position
stagnated
against
soon, but yeah.
they did, but they still had they had more to gain off of. They probably had one or two more dots to gain off of Safavids. They could have played to get Tripoli back. They could have tried Constantinople, though it wouldn't have worked. There was play here for Abyssinia. They could have even played for India because Mughals are still alive but dying. They could have tried to play for Madarai, Bellari, Goa. There's play for Abyssinia everywhere here.
Yeah. Well, GG's to everyone. I think that's about all I have. Um, this was a great game. I am unfortunately really busy, so I can't play more than one at a time. But this was awesome. And it was great to play with everyone involved. So yeah, I'll see you whenever I next play a game. So, yeah, bye.